Vanno i microfoni? Please, everybody should sit down. We are starting, please. Please be quiet and sit down, everybody. We are starting the public conference. Thank you very much.
Across the world, democracy is in retreat. In less than a generation, nearly half of all nations have seen their freedoms erode. The walls of democracy are cracking under disinformation, corruption, fear, and indifference. In Russia, freedoms are suppressed, and its aggression threatens Europe's very security. In Belarus and Turkey, opposition is silenced. In China, truth is rewritten. In the United States, authoritarianism is just around the corner. And inside Europe, some who share its institutions no longer defend its values. The paradox is clear. Democracy is less defended by those who live in it, and most desired by those who never had it. Yet every act of courage, every march, every voice that refuses silence reminds us, democracy is not a gift, it is a choice, one we must make every single day. We know exactly what we need. All we need is democracy.
Ongi etorriak Europako Alderdi Demokrataren 21. Kongresu honetara. Welcome to this 21st Congress of the European Democratic Party. We are honored to host this Congress here in the Basque Country, a country with a deeply European history. A deeply European identity also, one that has contributed to the European project since its earliest day. Our history, our spirit, and our values have always been aligned with the idea of a shared future built together in cooperation, solidarity, and of course, freedom. And that brings me to a simple but powerful message that it's been said. A message that captures the essence of what we are here, why we are here, and why we are gathered. All we need is democracy. This is not just a slogan, it's a reminder that democracy is the foundation on which we build our society, where we safeguard our rights and defend our diversity. It is the common thread connecting us with our cultures, aspirations, and also the work that we will carry out together within this Congress. Today, we have the pleasure of welcoming participants throughout the world, and this cultural, intergenerational diversity enriches our Congress, our conversations, and also reflects the very meaning of that phrase, all we need is democracy. Because democracy is the strongest when many voices are shared together. I have the honor of introducing someone who embodies that message very, very deeply on their mission every day. Our voice in Europe, the person who tirelessly defends Basque interests in Brussels, Strasbourg, or where it's needed. Our member of the European Parliament, Oihana Gregoitia.
Lehenengo eta behin, mila esker Aitana, gaur hementze guaz egoteagatik. Aitana, she is one of the best examples that we've got to show you the powerful youth that we've got here in the Basque Country. Agintariok, lankideok, lagunok, arratzaldeon guztioi, eta ongi etorriak Euskadira. We are living in a time of profound changes, both within and beyond our borders. The rules that for decades we established to ensure stability, mutual respect, and predictability on the international arena are now being called into question. We see it when the president of an autocracy decides to invade Ukraine, a sovereign country in the very heart of Europe. We also see it when the leader of the planet's main powers allows himself to suggest building a supposed tourist paradise in a devastated territory like the Gaza Strip. Son señales de que el mundo está cambiando a un ritmo que nos obliga a repensar cómo defendemos nuestros valores, nuestra seguridad y nuestro papel en el mundo físico y también en el digital. No olvidemos que nuestros adolescentes ya pasan de media 4 o 5 horas al día conectados y expuestos a un algoritmo que decide qué es lo que ven y qué es lo que no ven. Un algoritmo que ni conocemos ni controlamos. Nuestro compromiso como partido de centro es más importante que nunca, porque en tiempos de tanto ruido, la moderación es un acto de valentía. En tiempos de polarización, el diálogo es una herramienta de transformación. En tiempos de incertidumbre, la búsqueda de consensos no es una debilidad, sino la demostración de un liderazgo fuerte y democrático. Gaur egun, inoiz baino gehiago, Europak ahots bat behar du, irmotasuna eta zentzutasuna bilatzen duena, erronken handitasuna ulertzen duena, indartzu egiten gaituenari uko egin gabe. Hau da, argi izatea, aurrerapea, benetakoa partekatua baldin bada, bakarrik izango dela. Europako Alderdi Demokrataren kongresu hau, hemen, gaur, gure etxean, Euskadin, jokoan daukagun guztia azpimarratzeko erabili behar dugu. Demokrazia, aniztasuna, berdintasuna eta tokikoaren garrantzia berresteko balio izan behar du. Europa ez da Bruselatik bakarrik eraikitzen. Hemendik, Barakaldotik, Ezkerraldetik, Donostitik, Iruñatik, Hendaiatik edo Potik hasten da eraikitzen. Lagunok, este es el momento de asumir nuestro papel, de ofrecer claridad, responsabilidad y esperanza, de demostrar que el centro no es un punto intermedio, que no nos líen con eso de la equidistancia. Nosotros y nosotras sabemos perfectamente lo que es la centralidad y la coherencia. Es un proyecto político, una manera de entender Europa y el mundo, y una apuesta por un mundo mejor. Mila esker benetan gaur honaino hurbildu zareten guztioi eta gozatu dezagun gaurko arratzaldea. Eskerrik asko.
Thank you, Oihana, eskerrik asko. Next, I would like to introduce you to our Lehendakari, the President of the Basque Country. Imanol Pradales represents a new kind of leadership in the Basque Country. His work focuses on innovation, identity, and a strong European outlook. He embodies the shared commitment that us, the Basque National Party, have as well as the European Democratic Party, to build a more inclusive, a forward-looking Europe in which stateless nations like ours, the Basque Country, have our say. Please, let me introduce you to the Lehendakari Imanol Pradales. The floor is yours.
European Democratic Partyko arduradunok, herri agintari eta ordezkario, jaun-andreok, arratzaldeon guztioi. Demokrata gara, demokrazian sinestin dugulako eta elkarrekin eraikiko dugu biharko Europa. Esaldi honek bikain laburbiltzen du European Democratic Partyren helburua, baita Euskadirena ere. Horea da niretzat lehendakari ezala zuei harrera egitea. Ongi etorriak izan zaitezte demokrazian eta Europan beti sinetsi duen nazio honetara. Eta eskerrik asko une historiko honetan kongresu hau hemen antolatzeagatik. 80 years ago, San Francisco Conference was held, sowing the seeds of the United Nations. 75 years ago, Schuman made a declaration that marked a key moment in the development of the European Union. The Basque Country was there, participating directly in both milestones, led by our Lehendakari Aguirre. He did so from exile, because at that time he represented a country subjugated by Franco's dictatorship. Yesterday marked precisely the 50th anniversary of his death. 3 anniversaries that symbolize 3 great achievements of the 20th century: peace and human rights, democracy and Europe. All of us who believe in them must ask ourselves a question: are they warranted? We are witnessing an increasingly uncertain and unstable world order. Today's globalization is far from the open globalization of 2 decades ago. The rise of autocratic leaders, extremist and populist movements is combined with unprecedented challenge such as migration, climate change, and disruptive technologies. Thousands of people continue to suffer and die in wars and conflicts in the face of an international community unable to stop them in Ukraine, Gaza, Sudan, Sahel, Congo, Myanmar, and Pakistan. This climate of confrontation is also spilling over into trade relations in the form of protectionism and tariffs, or posing new threats such as hybrid warfare. According to recent data from the International Institute of Democracy, in 2024, 45% of countries have seen a decline in at least one key indicator of democratic performance compared to 5 years earlier. And according to YouGov study this summer, only 57% of young Europeans believe democracy is the best form of government, and 51% feel that the European Union is poorly implemented despite being a good idea. In summary, the weakening of multilateralism, free market, and democracy. This is not the scenario we would have chosen, but is the one we must handle. And there are not magic solutions, no matter populists promise them. François Bayrou sounded very accurate recently in his last speech as Prime Minister of France. We have the power to bring down the government, but you don't have the power to erase reality. And he added that the greatest risk today is not to take any risk. Están en juego la supervivencia de Europa como actor global de primer orden y como proyecto compartido de libertades, convivencia pacífica, oportunidades y seguridad. Necesitamos un nuevo impulso político, una Europa más decidida y unida que nunca, que, frente al auge de los neoimperialismos, actúe con una voz unida, única y fuerte. Hace tiempo que compartimos diagnóstico y soluciones, pero es el momento de aplicarlas si queremos ser dueños de nuestro destino y evitar convertirnos en vasallos de terceros. Es la hora de la acción, y la acción requiere prioridades claras y determinación. Nos jugamos el futuro de nuestro bienestar en la reindustrialización europea. Debemos proteger las industrias básicas y focalizar recursos en los sectores de la nueva economía. Ocuparnos de nuestra seguridad integral en términos de defensa, sí, y también incorporando las áreas de la energía, la tecnología, el clima, la alimentación o la salud pública. Debemos mirar de frente a los problemas ligados al bienestar, la seguridad, el empleo, el envejecimiento, la migración o la vivienda. A las dudas y a la falta de expectativas que alimentan el caldo de cultivo del populismo, especialmente entre la juventud. También queda mucho por hacer en términos de competitividad, desburocratización o integración de los mercados, pero quiero detenerme brevemente en otra cuestión: gobernanza. La autonomía estratégica requiere autonomía política y esta exige transformaciones de calado. Los tratados de la Unión recogen mecanismos que permiten un amplio margen de actuación aún sin explorar suficientemente. Es hora de superar la regla de la unanimidad, de abandonar los juegos de equilibrio y los acuerdos de mínimos que entorpecen y dilatan decisiones clave para la supervivencia de Europa. Es hora de transitar hacia un sistema de mayorías ágil que permita a quienes quieran avanzar puedan hacerlo sin el veto de quienes se oponen. Es necesario superar el esquema de las ayudas de Estado. Europa cuenta con herramientas como proyectos de interés común para explotar en mayor medida la cooperación transnacional en sectores clave. Y urge, por lo tanto, una verdadera gobernanza multinivel que permita la codecisión en términos políticos y financieros, incorporando a entes subestatales como Euskadi a la ecuación del diseño y la decisión de un federalismo europeo armonizador y no uniformador. La política de cohesión de la Unión debe ser revisada y mejorada, pero desde Euskadi nos oponemos a que el poder de decisión del nuevo marco financiero europeo se transfiera en exclusiva a las capitales, tal y como ha planteado la Comisión recientemente. Es necesario, por tanto, un nuevo liderazgo europeo que supere las visiones estatales y aproveche todas las capacidades de naciones sin Estado como Euskadi, que podemos jugar un papel motor para lograr muchos de los objetivos en términos de competitividad y seguridad de la Unión Europea. La respuesta a los desafíos globales, a los populismos y a los extremismos, a la inestabilidad que padecen muchos Estados, no es cerrarse y refugiarse dentro de cada una de las fronteras. No es volver atrás ni renunciar a los valores que hacen único el proyecto europeo. Hay que romper con esos miedos y esas inercias del siglo pasado, porque ese mundo ya no existe. La respuesta es precisamente abrirse y apostar por más Europa, más democracia y más bienestar. Es recuperar el espíritu fundacional de la Unión, el espíritu de líderes como Schuman, Adenauer o de Gasperi, con quienes la generación del Lehendakari Aguirre trabajó codo con codo. Es volver, como hicieron ellos, a poner el humanismo y la dignidad de la persona en el centro, frente al individualismo exacerbado y las ideologías comunistas. Así consiguieron hacer realidad la construcción de una Europa no solo en lo material, sino en lo moral y en lo espiritual, y política en un continente que estaba reducido a cenizas por la guerra, compaginando idealismo y pragmatismo, alcanzado grandes acuerdos entre distintas sensibilidades y familias políticas. Ese es el legado del que nos sentimos herederos, grandes acuerdos entre distintas sensibilidades y familias políticas y que debemos defender frente a los extremos. La centralidad que debemos preservar y debemos ensanchar. Hauek dira Euskadiren kultura politikoaren bihotzean egon diren balioak, bakea, justizia soziala eta askatasuna. Hau da gure aurrekoek amestu zuten zeremuga, balio horiek bermatuko zituen Europa sendo bat, herri libreen arteko alkertasunetik eraikia. Europa indartsu eta eraginkor bat, bai, baina baita arima izango zuena ere. Horregaitik, Europar proiektu areiten lagundu zuten Nubelekip internazionalen parte hartu genuen. Protagonismo aktiboa izan zuen estaturik gabeko nazio bakarra izan ginen. Orain, ilusioz eta konfiantzaz hartu behar dugu haien lekukoa. Elkarlan eredu berezia da Europa. Munduan parekorik ez duena, lehiakortasuna, giza eskubideak eta bizikalidadea uztartzen dituen proiektu amankomuna. Asko dugu integraziorako bidean, baina askoz gehiago egin behar dugu egungo erronkei erantzuteko. Guk bezala, demokrazian sinesten duten guztiekin aliantza global sendoak eraikiz eta gazteak erakarriz besteak beste. Zalantzarik ez dut gaurko kongresuak gai hoien guztien gainean gogoeta emankorra egiteko aukera emango digula. Eskerrik asko, thank you very much.
Eskerrik asko, Lehendakari. Thank you. Europe must be and must grow stronger. You are right. We need a Europe that does not fear the challenges ahead, but faces them head-on and regains the sovereignty it lost. To discuss this, it is my pleasure to introduce someone exceptionally qualified for this. He is one of Europe's most prominent voices in industry and technology policy. As former European Commissioner for the Internal Market, he shaped Europe's digital, industrial, and health strategies, from regulating big tech to coordinating vaccine production during the pandemic. His experience gives him a unique perspective on how Europe can strengthen its autonomy and regain control over its technological future. Thank you. Thierry Breton, the floor is yours.
Merci beaucoup, thank you very much. Mon cher François, Monsieur le Président, Sandro, Monsieur le Secrétaire Général, first I would like to tell you that I'm extremely happy to be here with you in Bilbao. Maybe it will be wise for the one who don't speak yet fluent in French to have also your earphone, because I will switch from English to French in my keynote this afternoon. All we need is democracy, yes. And you show this to us. All we need is commitment, truth, rule of law, courage. All we need is you. All we need is us. Because yes, we are entering into an extremely difficult time that we will have to cope with. Mais d'abord, je voudrais vous poser une question. Depuis le 20 janvier, since January 20th, il s'est passé quelque chose. We have a new US administration. Et depuis cette nouvelle administration, le monde a été complètement bouleversé. Il faut le dire. Et si on était des historiens dans quelques années, quel est le mot qui caractériserait le monde dans lequel nous sommes entrés depuis le 20 janvier? Plutôt la perte de ce mot. What did we miss since January 20th, which was so important for us to build what we are today? And by the way, since World War II. C'est quoi ce mot? Je vais vous demander. Qu'est-ce que c'est quoi? Trust, bravo. Alors, usually when I'm asking, I need 10 other words, but you are fantastic. Yes, in fact, it's lack of trust, mistrust. Everything that we have built since 70 years was based on trust. La confiance, c'était ce qui nous unissait. La confiance, c'était ce qui nous a permis de bâtir une architecture de sécurité et de défense, en particulier pour nous, en Union européenne, et en particulier, évidemment, pour tous ceux qui sont membres de l'OTAN, avec la garantie que si l'un d'entre nous était attaqué, parce que la confiance était là, elle était cardinale, alors personne ne pourrait considérer que si un d'entre nous est attaqué, tous sont là pour se défendre. La confiance. Trust also because of our rule of law. Rule of law is based on trust. We have rules, but this is because we trust them that will make them available. Trust also in commerce. WTO is based on trust, was based on trust. L'Organisation mondiale du commerce. Lorsqu'on échangeait entre un continent et un autre, un pays et un autre, alors parce qu'il y avait ces règles, on savait que la confiance était là et que si l'un ne les respectait pas, alors il y avait des mesures de rétorsion, ce qui faisait qu'on s'équilibrait. Eh bien, cette confiance a volé en éclats. And then, we're entering into a new world qui est basé entièrement sur les rapports de force et sur la violence. Et c'est ça le nouvel ordre qui se dessine. Et qu'est-ce qu'on est, nous? Nous sommes des démocrates. Plus que jamais, on a besoin des démocrates parce que c'est nous, c'est eux, ce sont les démocrates qui vont rééquilibrer ce monde dans lequel nous sommes rentrés. And if I'm saying so, it is because I see, like each of you, since few months, and especially, by the way, in Europe. Let's spend a few minutes on Europe. We have built over the past 5 years, and I would like to say hello and to salute all MEPs here. Thanks to your extremely hard work, and I have a lot of friends, j'ai beaucoup d'amis, pas seulement les Français, in this room. We have built together something which is unbelievable. We have built new regulations, new laws, new acts, to make sure that our values were transformed in our way of living. Our values, nos valeurs, ont permis de définir les objectifs qu'on voulait pour préserver l'environnement. Nos valeurs ont permis de définir ce qui était important pour préserver la dignité humaine dans l'exercice de l'activité de nos entreprises, bien sûr en Europe, mais aussi à l'extérieur, et en particulier dans les pays qui ne respectent pas les mêmes valeurs que nous. On pense bien sûr à la Chine, mais pas uniquement. On a réussi à transformer tout ça. And overall, we have been able to build, and thanks to the Democrats, I could tell you, I was in the family, François, of course, I was one of them. But thanks to all the Democrats, we have been able to put what was needed for our digital space, where we spend between 4 to 5 hours every single day. And by the way, our children spend much more than that. And we decided, especially when I joined the Commission, but I was not alone, with all of you, with my friends, with my political party, we have decided to present new regulations in order to make sure that we transfer everything which makes us living together in the physical space to transfer it into the digital one. And of course, it's called the DSA, Digital Services Act, DMA, Digital Market Act, Data Act, in order to make sure what to do with the data, who owns the data, and of course the AI Act, so important for our future. All these 4 regulations are the 4 pillars on which now we have built a single digital market. Finally, coherent, one regulation for the 450 million inhabitants that we have together in Europe. One single regulation. It has been quite a work. And by the way, 90% of MEPs in the European Parliament voted in favor. 90%. 100% of member states voted in favor. And this is something that we need to be proud of it. We have been the first continent on this planet to be able to transform our values, et nos valeurs, ce sont nos valeurs démocrates, into the digital space. Alors maintenant, il ne faut pas s'étonner que tous ceux qui nous regardent dans ce monde de rapports de force veulent détruire ce qu'on a construit dans l'espace numérique, dans l'espace informationnel. Et en particulier, bien sûr, les GAFAM. On a 3 visions du monde dans l'espace informationnel. La vision américaine, pas de régulation le moins possible, tout dans les mains des très grands groupes, pour le profit, et avec les grands groupes qui vont pousser leurs valeurs pour créer des dépendances. Le modèle chinois, surveillance de masse, on se sert de ces instruments pour contrôler la population, pour contrôler les entreprises, pour faire des rapports de force commerciaux et géopolitiques à l'extérieur, c'est la surveillance de masse. Le modèle russe, y a-t-il encore un modèle russe? Pas de discontinuité entre l'espace physique et l'espace numérique. On contrôle tous les individus et on se sert de ce qu'on a développé en termes d'éléments pour déstabiliser les autres dans les guerres hybrides, les guerres numériques, pour déstabiliser nos démocraties, nos concitoyens, nos entreprises. Tous les jours, ce sont les attaques hybrides de la part de la Russie dans cet espace. Et nous, Europe, on a un autre modèle. C'est mettre nos règles de droit dans l'espace informationnel et faire en sorte que tous ceux qui vont vouloir venir en Europe bénéficier de notre espace numérique puissent le faire, mais en respectant nos règles. And guess what? Since January 20th, of course, these regulations are under attack, strongly under attack. And we need to resist. It's just unacceptable. And I'm saying, again, totally unacceptable. What I saw a few days ago, that we will propose not to reduce these laws because the GAFAM are not happy with it. Alors, of course, we have a pretext. It's too complex. It's against innovation. But come on. These are our rules. These are our values. And by the way, we just started to implement them. A few months ago only. And we start to say, oh, no, it's too difficult. Let's withdraw it. When I see that it will be a so-called omnibus, proposing that now we don't apply AI Act, which is so important because it's a little bit too complex, and let's wait another 18 months or 16 months. Because of what? So, I mean, these are our rules. These are our regulations, especially from our party. And now we'll ask our MEPs to say that everything we worked over the past 4 years, forget it. To please whom? To please EPP. Because EPP is moving in this direction. Are we here to please EPP? No. To please, and by the way, the EPP is looking at who? ECR, patriots, extreme right. So it is time, my friends, to wake up and to say no. And I really hope that everyone, all the democratic parties, will say no. Because these are our values. And all we need is courage. And it is now. So my message here for all of us in Bilbao is definitely that it's time to resist. Because we know exactly what's happening. And by the way, everything that we have done over the past 5 years, tout ce qu'on a fait pour protéger l'environnement, pour protéger les êtres humains, est en train pour protéger notre démocratie digitale, est en train d'être détricoté tranquillement, un par un, parce que le PPE veut le détricoter, avec le soutien des partis d'extrême droite, et on nous demande, nous aussi, de soutenir, parce qu'on nous dit, vous comprenez, si vous ne soutenez pas, on risque d'avoir l'instabilité. Eh bien, je vous le dis, je préfère avoir l'instabilité que l'humiliation et le déshonneur. Et donc, tout ce que nous avons porté, tout ce que nous avons fait, on ne peut pas le défaire 2 ans après. Sans ça, où est la parole publique? Où est l'action politique? Et c'est la raison pour laquelle on nous attend tellement aujourd'hui. Nous sommes la seule force politique qui dit ça avec force et qui va le dire encore plus fortement. Et on en aura encore plus besoin. Il est temps de ramener tous les partis de gouvernement à la raison. Les partis de gouvernement sont ceux avec lesquels nous avons travaillé au cours des dernières années. Certains d'entre eux sont en train de s'égarer. C'est parce que nous serons forts, c'est parce que nous aurons un message clair, c'est parce que l'on redira toujours que ce que nous avons fait allait dans le bon sens, était dans le sens de l'intérêt général, européen et humaniste, que l'on continuera l'action politique et celle qui a été rappelée tout à l'heure par le Président, initiée par Schuman et par Monnet, dont nous sommes, ne l'oublions jamais, les héritiers. So, with such a legacy, it's a fantastic and huge honor, but it's something also extremely heavy to carry. So, my dear friends, I'm here to tell you again that first, of course, I'm not a commissioner anymore, but you can count on me. I will continue to be extremely vocal, because we need to be vocal in this time. So you could count on me. But if I may say so, François, si je peux le dire, François, on a besoin de vous, on a besoin de toi, on a besoin de ce que nous représentons, on a besoin de notre famille, on a besoin de notre message, plus que jamais. Et c'est dans ces moments-là que le courage politique, dans toute son acceptation, dans sa grandeur, doit s'exprimer. Alors j'espère que les députés de notre famille, les députés européens de notre famille, ne voteront pas pour l'abaissement des droits de douane américains contre rien. C'est dans vos mains. Au nom de quoi on baisserait à 0% contre 15%? J'espère que nos amis députés européens ne voteront pas pour détricoter toutes ces lois auxquelles et sur lesquelles ils ont tous travaillé avec tellement d'ardeur parce que ça allait dans le sens de l'intérêt général, pour, encore une fois, un plat de lentilles. En français, on dit, François, Paris vaut bien une messe. Ça te rappelle quelque chose. In French, we say that sometimes you have to give up. And I just wrote a book. It took me 10 years. When I analyzed every time in our French history, when we decided that, well, it was very complex and we had to take a very strong decision, a difficult decision, we took the easiest path. Every time, it has been a failure. Et dans la vie, quand on a deux chemins, moi je ne suis pas là du coup pour donner des leçons, et encore moins des leçons de morale, mais je peux vous dire ce que moi je me suis appliqué dans ma vie. À chaque fois que j'avais deux chemins devant moi, j'ai toujours choisi le plus difficile. Au moins mon choix était facile. Et je crois que c'est dans le moment où nous sommes qu'il faut avoir ça en tête. Dans les chemins qui sont devant nous, choisissons les plus ardus, parce que c'est eux qui portent nos valeurs, et c'est eux dont on a besoin. So thank you very much. I really count on you. You can count on me. But the time is now. The time is now for all of us to fight, and to fight strongly.
Merci Thierry for your valuable insights into the need of a more industrially sovereign, technologically advanced and courageous Europe. With these ideas in mind, we move on to our first panel of the day, dedicated to the voices of the present and future, us, the young people. Our panel, Youth on the Move, Protest Voices and Digital Revolt, will explore the importance of speaking up and defending our European values. Freedom of speech, equality, and democracy, among others, with people that very well knows what it is to have these rights denied. And guiding this discussion, someone who has a deep understanding of information integrity, public trust, and the growing impact of digital media on democratic participation. A Irish representative in the European Parliament, Kieran Mullowly. Please.
Thank you very much, Itana.
But first, we would like to hear Ekrem İmamoğlu. He's the mayor of Istanbul and symbol of democratic resistance in Turkey, especially since his unlawful arrest by the Erdogan regime and dubious charges. His message, read by his wife Dilek, will remind delegates that the fight for freedom in Turkey is also the fight for freedom in Europe. We will introduce the panelists meanwhile. The first one.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have people on stage this afternoon who have been active all over the world. In Serbia, in Turkey, in the UK, in the US. It is a great privilege for me to welcome some of them to the stage. Our first guest is a young Turkish activist and researcher committed to defending human rights and the rule of law. She was jailed by Erdogan's regime in March 2025 for joining a peaceful protest and released in May. Her courage has inspired youth across Turkey, and we are delighted she is here today because she stands as a voice for civic freedom and democratic renewal. It is a great privilege for me to introduce Isila Ayik. Thank you very much. Have a seat. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Our second guest this evening, a very well-known British-Ukrainian filmmaker and documentarian whose award-winning work on the war in Ukraine has reached millions on YouTube and other platforms. His films explore the human cost of conflict, the defense of democracy. He's also been to the European Parliament to meet some MEPs who are not who we think they were. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Caolan Robertson.
East Europe is also represented thanks to Nikolina Sindelic and Pavel Cicvaric, both Serbian youth leaders who faced police repression for mobilizing students and citizens against Vucic's regime. Please give them a warm welcome.
Very welcome. Take a seat.
Welcome.
Thank
And last but not least, we have Chris Mowry, American activist working with digital creators to combat far-right narratives online. Please.
Chris, very welcome. Take a seat. Thanks very much.
Hello. So we are now going to listen to the video and the message of the mayor of Istanbul.
And let us remember, ladies and gentlemen, why he cannot be here to deliver this. Why can he not be here to deliver this? We're a very, very special message for somebody taken into custody in appalling circumstances. Let us hear his message first.
Esteemed representatives, I extend my respectful greetings to all of you from Istanbul. I will now read the letter from my beloved husband Ekrem İmamoğlu, expressing his unwavering determination in the pursuit of justice. Sayın Başkan Beyru, Sayın Genel Sekreter Gozi, değerli temsilciler ve dostlarım, size İstanbul'dan hitap etmekten onur duyuyorum. Davetiniz, demokrasinin ortak bir sorumluluk olduğunu ve aramızdan tek bir kişinin bile bir demokrasi sınavıyla karşılaştığında hepimizin sorumluluk üstlenmesi gerektiğini hatırlatıyor. Şu an bir dönüm noktasındayız. 21. yüzyılın ilk çeyreği sona ererken, insanlığa yön veren pek çok zor soruyla karşı karşıyayız. İklim krizinin, göç baskısının ve jeopolitik belirsizliklerin yükseldiği bir dönemde toplumlarımızı ayakta tutan sosyal dokuyu nasıl güçlendireceğiz? Dezenformasyonun ve kutuplaşmanın arttığı bir çağda kurumlara olan güveni nasıl yeniden inşa edeceğiz? Tüm bu sorular vatandaşlarımızın günlük yaşamlarını şekillendirecek. Ancak en büyük tehlike karşılaşacağımız değişimin boyutu değil, eşitsizliğin, adaletsizliğin ve otoriterliğin yavaş yavaş normalleşmesidir. Çevremizde kötülüğün sıradanlaştığını görüyoruz. Mahkemeler siyasi iradeye boyun eğiyor. Gerçek tartışmalı hale geliyor ve demokratik rekabet bir tehdit olarak algılanıyor. Avrupa genelinde demokrasi ancak aşırı fikirlerle mücadele etmek için ortak bir yaklaşım geliştirebilirsek ayakta kalabilir. Bu konuda pek çok farklı girişim de var. Ancak ihtiyacımız olan demokrasi yanlısı seslerin daha fazla bir araya gelmesidir. Avrupa'nın kendi demokrasi savunma mekanizmaları da sembolik olmaktan öteye geçmelidir. Demokratik normları korumak amacıyla kurulan kurumların tavsiyelerine parlamentolar, siyasi partiler ve sivil toplum kuruluşları sahip çıkmalı. Demokrasiyi korumak, güvenlik ve savunma hususlarıyla aynı derecede önemli bir stratejik öncelik olarak ele alınmalıdır. Güzel ülkemde ise demokrasiye yönelik tehditin ciddiyetini ve halkımızın yenilik arzusunun derinliğini aynı anda görüyoruz. Türkiye, Cumhuriyeti'nin 2. yüzyılına girerken halkımız saygınlık, dürüstlük, adalet ve iyi yönetişim talep ediyor. Ve tutuklanmamdan sosyal medya hesaplarımın erişime engellenmesine kadar, görüntümün ve sesimin her yerden silinmesine ve verilen binlerce yıllık hapis cezalarına kadar her türlü adaletsizliğe rağmen milyonlarca vatandaş korkuyla yaratılmaya çalışılan bu adaletsiz sistemi yeni normal olarak kabul etmeyi reddediyor, cesaretle barışçıl direnişini sürdürüyor. Avrupa ise tarihindeki acı derslerle barışın kendi kendine sürmeyeceğini, mücadele gerektirdiğini öğrendi. Bu durum özgürlük için de geçerli. Demokrasi mücadelesi kıtamızın geleceğini şekillendirecek temel bir sınavdır. Demokratik, öngörülebilir, hak temelli bir Türkiye, bölgemizin güvenliğini, ekonomik dayanıklılığını ve siyasi istikrarını güçlendirecektir. Hukukun üstünlüğüne dayalı bir Türkiye, ortak kıtamızın geleceği için vazgeçilmezdir. Demokrasiler birlikte hareket ederek hayatta kalır. Şehirlerin şehirleri desteklemesi, siyasi ailelerin çoğulculuğu savunması ve vatandaşların hakları için kararlı durması gibi. Bu nedenle Avrupalı demokratlar ile Türkiye'nin demokratik güçleri arasında daha derin bir işbirliğine inanıyorum. Avrupa ve Türkiye'nin ortak değerler üzerine inşa edilmiş ortak bir gelecekleri olmalıdır. Ve bu ortak geleceğimiz, göstereceğimiz cesarete bağlıdır. Demokrasi saldırıya uğradığında birlikte mücadele etme cesaretine, halkın sorunlarına kalıcı çözümler arama cesaretine bağlıdır. Thank you for your solidarity, which has been constant both here and in the European Parliament since my arrest. I wish to thank again, in particular, Mr. Beiro, Mr. Gozzi, and Mr. Giorgio for their constant support. And thank you for your commitment to a more democratic and hopeful Europe.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. What a poignant message from the Mayor of Istanbul. Behind bars, awaiting trial. Will there be a trial? Will there be a fair trial? Many of our panelists on stage this afternoon have experienced themselves of playing a part as an activist, either in Turkey, in Serbia, the UK or US. We're going to let them open up themselves to tell you a little bit about themselves at the beginning. I'm giving them 4 to 5 minutes just to talk about that. But let's stay in Turkey. Isila, tell us a little bit about what's going on there, what you've been involved in on the ground.
Well, it's a really long story. But just I want to say at first that the arrestation of politicals, it didn't start with Ekrem İmamoğlu. It's a really sad situation that no one focuses. But also we have Demirtas. He is the leader of the Kurdish party in Turkey, and he has been in jail for 9 years. It's going to be 10 years. And yeah, actually for us, it was always like that. Erdogan, you know, he's a dictator, and if he sees someone that can steal his place, then he's gonna put that person in jail. And that's what happened in March, because İmamoğlu is a very popular politician, and lots of people, especially the young generation, they support him, and Erdogan was afraid that he's gonna take his place because he wants to be the king of Turkey. And that's why without no evidence, they arrested him. And after that, lots of people came to streets. But just I want to focus on that, the people, the young people especially, who went on the streets in order to fight for democracy, they are not like Ekrem İmamoğlu is a big point, but also they didn't went on street for İmamoğlu. They went to streets for democracy, for their own rights. So I think it's a very good point to focus on.
But you didn't sit at home. You didn't take a passive stance on that. Tell our audience what you did and how you were treated as a result of it.
Yeah, so the thing, actually I live in Belgium for my university education, and I have been in Belgium for 2 years now. And I haven't went to Turkey for 2 years, and in the Eastern break I went to Turkey to see my family, but as a result, instead of spending time with my family, I spent my time in jail. Of course, I'm not gonna sit alone, especially if I have a really cool and chill life in Europe, while the Turkish students are going to jails and they are being beaten up by police every day. Of course, I cannot sit at home, so I went to the protest in Istanbul with my friends. Actually, I'm a photography student, so I was taking photos of the brutality of police. But then there were like 3,000, 4,000 students, and everyone was holding a banner, and it was saying "Dictator Erdogan." But the thing, all of the students, they were covering their faces because they were afraid that if they show their faces, they're gonna be in jail the next day. And I stood up and I was yelling at people, okay, don't be afraid. If Erdogan is a real dictator, then for holding this banner, I'm gonna be in prison. But if he is not a dictator, then nothing is gonna happen. So I hold up the banner without covering my face, and the next day I was in jail. So I think the
I'm
reason...
going to stop you there. I'm going to come back later to what happened when you were in jail. But ladies and gentlemen, this whole section is, I suppose, highlighting the fact that it's not just Turkey, it's around the world. We've seen it. We've seen young activists playing this key part, coming out, putting themselves forward, using different techniques to get the message, to push back against authoritarianism. I'm really thrilled to have Nicolina and Pavel here this afternoon. I'll give you first your opportunity to tell us your story and what you did.
Okay. First of all, hello everyone. My name is Pavle Cicuric, and I'm very pleased and honored to be here with you today. And I'm very glad that Nicolina and I actually got the invitation for this event. First of all, I will take a minute to talk shortly about my past experiences with activism. I've actually been active on the streets for 2 or 3 years. From now on, since the big protests of Serbia protiv nasilja, which means Serbia against violence, back 2 years ago, back in 2023, when 2 mass shootings unfortunately happened in and around Belgrade. At that point, we saw some new activist organizations, students coming along together and working together with some NGOs, some political parties, in order to peacefully make a transition from a regime that is very obviously sliding into autocracy by day. Now, if we fast forward 2 or 3 years in the future, right now Serbia is a lot different than Serbia used to be 2 years ago, or let's say 12 years ago, 13 years ago, when this regime came into power. By every day we can see even more violence, even more police brutality, even more suspension of the rule of law by day. For example, each day we can see a lot of students getting beaten up, members of political parties getting beaten up, NGOs being threatened and broken into by the regime or the thugs of the regime, the para-police, paramilitary forces that are very active in Belgrade and in Serbia. We can see a lot of repression and mistreatment of professors, of university professors that who have stepped out and supported the students and the movement. So all in all, in Serbia, we have a really hectic situation with a lot of different social actors who are actually fighting for democracy. The worst thing that I've seen in Serbia, and I often talk about it, in Serbia, in the middle of Europe, in the very heart of Europe, in the 21st century, we have political exiles. People who cannot come back to the country just because of something that they said, because the secret police listens and monitors everything that people do in Serbia. I think that's very disgusting, that's very sad to have a Serbia in the 21st century that looks like this. And I'm talking about the students and activists from Novi Sad who cannot come back to Serbia since March.
In a moment, I'm going to ask you about what you did, but Nicolina might come in on this as well. What did you do? How did you get involved?
So, hello everyone. I'm glad to be here and the part of this panel. Pavle said the mostly things that happen in Serbia, but I want to share the things that depends on the police violence against women in Serbia. And specifically, I will speak about my own case in Serbia. Because I faced institutional obstruction, targeting on the regime media, and violence, including the threat about rape by the commander of the police station in Belgrade. And after that, and Pavle and me, we were threatened in the regime media by the death and by the things that we need to go outside of Serbia to find a new life in Europe or America. And after that, I received messages from the journalists, for the politicians from the SNS party that I was the member of the classes in German about Nazism classes for the Russia is my own country. So they go to the very bad violence against the students in the Serbia, and I think it will be counting in the few months. So I will be later talking about the women rights in Serbia.
You will indeed. Let's go online if Kaelin is with us. Sometimes when somebody's remotely joining us, they're left to last. We won't do that today. Kaelin, you can hear us. Your face will be known to many people from YouTube. Tell us a little bit about the work you've been involved in and the way the digital formats have assisted in the work that you do.
Well, it's been interesting. I mean, I moved to Ukraine completely as an independent reporter about 2 years ago, and I just dedicated all my time to telling the truth about what Russia is doing to this country. I went to Kherson, which is a city in eastern and southern Ukraine that's been bombarded with drones. I went to the dugouts with trenches all across the east and the Donbass in this country, and just showed things how they are. And just showed things unfiltered. And I guess I gained a huge reach from doing that. I think it shows that, based on what you guys are talking about as well, people really care about the truth. They care about democracy. They care about information. They care about the reality of what's actually happening in Europe, especially during an age of an information war. And people just really like to hear what's happening. That's why I moved here to Ukraine. That's why I live here full time. That's why I report from the front lines to get things on the ground. But it's also why this panel is really important and why I'm focusing so much on the information war, because the information war is in overdrive right now. What Russia is doing by planting their MPs in the European Parliament, by flooding our news feeds with disinformation, our news feeds, by the way, of which the average European consumes 300 foot a day, is overwhelming. We're not designed to read that much information, never mind that much disinformation. So it's a really tough time for learning about what's happening in the world if you're an average human being in Europe or anywhere in the world. But what has been quite different is I've realized that people want truth. And that's why I go to the front lines. That's why I get it on the ground. That's why I show people what's really happening, because people can feel if something's right or not. But Russia are spending a lot more money on the disinformation war than the rest of Europe. Absolutely, even the Americans right now. And it's a crisis point, and it should be addressed immediately. And it's super important. This is why I confronted the Cyprus MEP Phidias, who was putting out massive Russian disinformation amplified by Elon Musk. And he admitted to supporting Ukrainian children being abducted, right? This isn't a mask-off moment. But it's a really critical situation. It's difficult. And I think that Russian disinformation has polluted not just our media, but our politics in the European Union. And this is why panels like this are so amazing and so important.
Kaelin, thank you for that. It's not just happening in the East, it's happening in the West too. Chris is here with first-hand experience of his own journey. Tell us about the work you've been doing, Chris.
First I want to say thank you. I'm so grateful to be here. I've actually never left the United States before. This is my first time. And I think it's really important, the moment we're seeing right now. I was young, maybe 14 or 15 years old, when Donald Trump was elected the first time. And it quickly dawned on me that he doesn't hold any values that are American. He's anti-American to the core. He lies so often. We saw this intense rise of disinformation and misinformation. And I started posting videos on the internet about just basically what I was passionate about at the time. Things like human rights, the misinformation we see, the eroding of our democracy in the United States. And I was lucky enough to kind of build this following online that I now am grateful enough to be able to do full time, where I spend pretty much every single day talking about the news and trying to get real information out there. I think it was said well that the disinformation machine right now is relentless, especially from Donald Trump in the States, from Elon Musk. And so trying to fight back and also show people that, there's so many Americans, millions of Americans that don't subscribe to this and are so deeply passionate that this is the fight, frankly, of the century for the United States, truly the battle for the soul of who we are. And so, yeah, I'm very impressed by a lot of the stories I've heard up here. It's inspiring.
I'm going to go straight back to you, Chris, just as something that I think most of the people in the audience here would agree with me or perhaps would feel the same about it. Trump. Is the principle of what he does on media that if you say something, no matter how inaccurate it is, if you say it 10 times, the people of the United States will believe it?
Yeah, you could get me going here. You could get me going and going and going. Yeah, it's been a fascinating thing to watch. He has taken a lot of people, I think, in the United States who have felt unheard for so long by their politicians, and he's inserted himself, and it's the flood the zone theory. He lies so often, so outrageously, and he just does it over and over and over and over again. And the media can't keep up. People can't keep up. And so eventually some of those just...
Maybe not all the media. And we saw two very brave journalists in the White House the other day who really gave the questions that needed to be asked. They were ridiculed, but they asked the questions. That's important still.
Correct. And truly those are the patriots. Those are the most important people right now. It's just the sheer amount of lies that Donald Trump tells. Some of them break through, and a lot of it is just awareness. That's why I think I do what I do, because those lies break through because not enough people are aware that he is the type of person he is. He's a narcissistic liar.
He's off the fence at this stage. I think we know where he stands on this. Celia, I want to ask you just a general question. Being an activist, being involved, are you basing your personal... Is it your personal life experience that drives you through, or have you seen something yourself on social media or on TV or elsewhere that has inspired you to get involved?
Well, it is really my personal life because my father, he's a worker. And yeah, as a child of a worker, you always have these financial problems. And also my mom, she didn't went to school because she was a woman. So her family thought that she's a girl, she cannot go to school. So like I came from this background, and what my mom taught me, as a woman, you have to be strong. So I was always strong for me, for my mother, and for the other girls in my country.
Caelan, when you make a video or make a performance like that, put it together, is that the best story to be most effective? The real life experience of people going out on the internet and going around the world?
Yes, of course. And what you just described as well was what people are craving. I mean, we're in the age of fake information. Everyone's scrolling their news feeds. There's AI taking over all of our stuff. People crave reality. And what I realized is I used to play music over a lot of my news reports. I used to, package a lot of my content to look like news so people would take it seriously. What I realized in the last year is that's not what people want. People want just the cold, hard truth. And they want to see raw footage. They want to see a soldier sitting somewhere speaking with his open heart about what the situation is. They want to see someone emotional and speaking frankly. And the world is craving truth right now more than ever. And there are enough people to do it. And I think that's what makes me most proud. But yeah, that's what people are craving. I mean, the most viewed videos that I've made in the last year are videos that are organic, that are real, without any filters, without anything. And I think that shows where things are going. And even though it feels bleak, even though now we feel like we're at a time where everyone's absorbing nonsense, everyone's absorbing fake information, the fact that people still crave reality and still crave real reporting should give us all hope, because that's supply and demand, and the demand is truth. So it's a good thing.
Absolutely. Two of our guests have been on the front line, not just holding cameras, got arrested in the process. Just to explain to our audience what happened next then in terms of the reaction of the other people in Serbia. How did the word get out and how did they respond?
So I think that I have like a little bit different situation because I was not in a jail. I was kidnapped in the basement of the government of Republic of Serbia by the commander of the police station. And about the speak in the Turkey about the woman, it's the same situation in Serbia, because when cops arrested a girl, it's a totally different story than a man. Because when they arrested the girls, they threat her with rape, untouched her, and tried to impropriate touching and to get out the dress, the clothing. But the man, it's not like that. And
so it's sexual assault for the woman
yes,
immediately.
always for the girls. And after my situations in the regime media in Serbia, they showed my private, intimate photos in the live program 3 hours, and tried to get the clients in that shows that try to speak about my body like a meat. And I believe, in my experience, shows that women's political participation in Serbia and in general in the world still carries a high personal cost. And not because women are unprepared and weak and maybe they don't want to be there. It's because I think that we don't have institutions who cares about women and who protect the women in Serbia. And this is why European standards need to be clear about Serbia, to help our country to get more clear about the laws about the women's.
And we're talking about the core treatment of women in your country. But tell me about what happened next in terms of the public's response, the activism that started. How did that start?
Yeah, at the first side, it was so hard to be the part of that regime game. But in Serbia, we have like people who actually protect us, and the media who protect us. And after that happened to me and Pavle, people actually be a leader with us and be with us in the street every day. And I think that we only have positivity of our people, and I think that we need to be grateful for that. And we are grateful to be here to speak about that.
Chris, if something happened in the States tomorrow morning, I'm not sure if the police would be backing the media, if they're on Trump's instructions.
Correct. Yeah. Sorry, say that one more time.
Yeah. Therefore, that it's an even bigger hurdle in the United States. At the end of the day, an allegation is made. Trump gives instructions to somebody to effectively take revenge, as far as I can see. So where do you turn them with your media, and you're in danger yourself in the States?
Yeah, and again, I think it's really so much of this is awareness for people, especially in the States. I think a lot of people can be, frankly, a little bit ignorant to the fight, how different our government is operating now compared to how it operated the last 7 decades. Because, yeah, this hyper-politicization of our executive branch and Trump's ability to direct people to go after his political opponents is something we've never seen. But
where's that going to stop, Chris?
Say again?
Where is that going to stop?
I don't know. That's a good question. I think someone's last point is people are craving the truth and they're craving authenticity. And I think a lot of what you'll hear up here is that you can quickly break down and start winning these battles by bringing in people who are very authentic and who care deeply about what's going on. In somewhere like the States, we spend a lot of time with a lot of people feeling like politicians are in it for themselves, are in it to just enrich themselves, don't care about others. And it actually gave way for Donald Trump to do what he's doing now. When you invite people who show the truth about Donald Trump and usher in politicians who are very authentic, who care, who are raw, you can quickly break down a lot of what you see from Donald Trump. I don't think he's as powerful as he wants people to make him. He's not as powerful as.
We'll see next time out in the elections. Caelan, can I ask you about this issue about the truth in media, in social or otherwise? You know, you came to Brussels to meet Fidias, our MEP, who made his career. He got elected actually on the back of a social media campaign in his own country. And successfully got his message across and got elected. Then you took him down on using the same principles. How is the public to decide which is the truth and which is not the truth?
Because people know deep down whether something is right, whether something is wrong. The Prince Andrew interview that Emily Maitlis carried out on the BBC sat down with the royal. And he said he was at Pizza Express, and he wasn't. People knew that there was something wrong, and now he's lost his royal title. Big interviews like that exist, and you don't really know who someone is unless you sit right down in front of them and you unmask them and you ask them who they are and what they believe. And Phidias wasn't prepared for me to ask him those kind of questions. But it was revealing in the way that he answered them. And I think that's why it basically unraveled his career. I think it's why he hasn't posted that much right-wing or pro-Russian disinformation since, because people saw who he was. And this is why journalism and why truth is so important, because you have to sit down with someone and you have to look opposite them and you have to directly get the truth and show it to people, and they can make up their own minds. And in that case, the public made up their own minds, which is that he was a Russian stooge who went to Moscow during the Victory Day parade, who is an elected member of parliament. And by the way, Phidias is fun to talk about, but he's not the only one. There are many, many members of the European Union Parliament, MEPs, who are also bought and paid for by Russia in many countries. You know, this is why the European Union are relaxed when Russian drones fly into NATO's airspace, fly into Poland, and they aren't shot down. This is why they're relaxed when it happens in Estonia. This is why we had a train that was blown up a few kilometers from here in Poland by Russian saboteurs, and the European Union kind of just looked on, because the rot of Russian influence and disinformation goes deep, and it goes deep, and it goes dirty, and it's rotten. And it goes back to them sending their kids to private schools that our politicians go to, that are then elected as MEPs. It goes back to them having stations like Russia Today in London. And then it goes back to them polluting our news feeds with disinformation campaigns like the Tenet media scandal we saw in America, and like the scandal we saw recently with Limitless, paying people like Sasha Meets Russia and all these sort of pro-Russian provocateurs. These people are polluting our entire culture. And if Europe wants to be strong, and if Europe wants to actually stand up for itself and be an empire again, in a good way, not a colonialist way, but a good way, doing something good, it needs to recognize that this is happening. It needs to recognize that it's at war with Russia right now and actually fight back. Because the only language that Russia understands right now is the language of retaliation.
Okay, that's an
Russia
even
right now
broader,
is
it's a good point,
Yeah.
and an even broader point for us to consider. I want to go back to Pavel, to Serbia, and to talk about, it's one thing, you know, something happening, putting the message out that, you know, this is a gross injustice. It is absolutely outrageous what has happened. But how do you convince other people in your country to respond?
Well, first of all, we need to understand the context of how the protests are initially organized in Serbia and how they function. When I say protest, I mean the whole broader community that is against the current regime, which includes the zbors, which are local platforms of activists, medical workers, teachers, local politicians who work in a decentralized way in order to keep the flame all around the country. We have different NGOs who are working throughout the institutions as far as they can. We have political parties, we have students who are actively working, and it all comes together. In that sense, when we're communicating with people, I think a lot of people actually believe, okay, let's say it like this. It's not that they believe us because we are like this or like that, but because they see with their eyes what is going on. They can see through the regime propaganda that is being forced 24/7 throughout the national media, throughout the state-controlled televisions, which is really hard because that propaganda was so deeply rooted in our society, and it took something so terrible as a collapse of the canopy in the railway station of Novi Sad in order to get people moving. But the important thing is when we look retroactively, when we look at the protests in Serbia, the protests actually, from my point of view, they didn't end from 2019, but they oscillated and they were focused around different themes. For example, the Krvave košulje protests, the Serbia against violence, and the protests and the crisis within our society never actually ends. It just oscillates. Now, when we're talking, as Nikolina said, Serbia is a country, Serbia has its own institutions and so on, but we don't live in a world where one country or one person can just isolate itself from everything around the world, and that is why the talk is important. I know that a lot of people from the European Parliament and from the international community know something about what's going on in Serbia, but when you have the chance to talk to someone in person or like this, who is in the protest, I think people can get a better context and understanding of how situation works. And as Nikolina said, from my point of view, the international community has been, parts of the international community have been silent on this part, on the growth of authoritarianism in Serbia, but I think something has changed in the last few months. We have seen a lot of the biggest world papers, the biggest media openly criticizing the regime of Aleksandar Vučić in Serbia, openly calling him a autocrat. We have seen a lot of families and groupations within the European Parliament openly stepping up and more actively criticizing the regime. For example, the Democrats, Liberals, Social Democrats, the Greens. Correct me if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, maybe some members of the Parliament from EPP, but I'm not sure. So I would stop at that. In that sense, I think that the regime is getting cornered. And there is one saying in Serbia, and that's when the beast is put tightly into a corner, it is going to be a lot more dangerous the further
absolutely.
it goes.
Absolutely. Yeah. The people of Turkey are in a even more difficult situation because the police are not with you. The state media are not with you.
Like, no one is with us. Actually, like, that's what I wanted to focus. Because like what also I went through when I was in jail, also what my friends went through when they were arrested, it's just not something normal. So the thing, when they were taking me to prison, I got beaten. And the problem, I have a kidney and heart disease. And the next day, my urine, it was just blood. And it happens a lot in Turkey. Lots of my friends, like, some of them are with broken legs, with broken arms, with broken ribs, with broken nose, and it's just not okay. But also the thing of the police brutality, for women, they are more hard. They do also like Serbia, like they try to rape you, they try to harass you. When I was in jail, the focus of media, it was on me. And also, since I was living in Belgium, I also got some support from Belgium. They didn't touch me, but the thing, they took me twice to gynecology. You are gonna ask why they took her to gynecology. I still don't know, but I went to gynecology with soldiers, and they were also with me, women soldiers. Also the men soldiers, they wanted to came with me as well, but I just said it cannot, it's harassment. But still, the women soldiers, they were with me. I was naked. And the reason they took me to gynecology, because maybe for them I'm not Muslim enough, because, you know, Erdogan has some radical Islamic ideas that gives no value to women. And yeah, in 21st century, I'm ashamed of saying that. But also when I was in jail...
Was there media coverage, social media coverage of your story, your ordeal? Did it go around?
This one, the gynecology, I cannot say that in Turkey. They're going to take me again to jail. This is my first time that making it public.
But did it inspire people in Turkey to respond to what happened to you?
Yeah, lots of. But also, when I was in jail, I was writing letters to outside, and my family, my father, they were talking in the media. But the thing, then they went to my father and they said that if you keep talking, then you cannot see your girl, your daughter again. And also they came to me, the men of Erdogan, the people of Erdogan, when I was in jail, and they told me that if I keep writing letters to outside to inspire young people to go out and protest, they said that you're never gonna be free again. You're never gonna be go to your school again. They even asked me to apologize from Erdogan when I was in jail. They said that, they told me that if I apologize from Erdogan, then I will get free. But I refused. I still got free.
It's an incredible story. Ladies and gentlemen, I mean, the bravery is incredible when you consider is sitting and lying in a cell and that put to you. And Chris, I mean, you have a soft job really, Chris, in the United States compared to this. But there is a serious issue here. On one hand, you have ways of young people getting involved in social media and, you know, liking and sharing. How do you move from there in terms of they actually becoming an activist, a political activist?
Yeah, it's a great question. And to the first point, I mean, the bravery and courage up here is incredible. Yeah, again, I think that so much of this fight is awareness. I think I'd like to believe that, especially right now, when Americans are polled about what Donald Trump is actually doing, and they understand fundamentally how our government has so radically changed just in the last 8 or 9 months. A lot of them are very unhappy and very fierce and excited and ready to go. I think that to the point that was made earlier, you know, people are craving truth, they're craving authenticity, and so much of it is a information war. It truly comes down to awareness. I talk to people all day long who just have no idea that so much of this is happening, or if they hear that, you know, we've seen a wave of Democrats in the United States, or people from previous administrations, essentially, 2 or 3, get arrested, and that's unprecedented. It's unprecedented to see our agencies working essentially so closely to the president and doing whatever is politically advantageous to him. When people hear about it, again, a lot of it is, it's probably normal. It's probably not that big a deal. So much of the fight is awareness. When we get people aware, they realize how much is at stake. It's very easy to then mobilize. We saw No King's Day in the United States. I'd have to look at the numbers again, but it's close to the single biggest protest day in American history. I think there was 8 million or 7 million people on the streets. And again, so making a lot of noise and being very aware. And I think people start to realize that their future is at stake. I mean, my future is at stake. The parents now who are, you know, maybe my parents' age, they understand that my future is at stake. So truly, I'd say it's a lot of awareness.
We've got just a few minutes left, and I'm just going to throw. I was a journalist myself for 25 years, and I always love to throw in one last question to challenge you. Caelan, Charlie Kirk's death, what have we learned from that?
That political violence is absolutely disgusting, whatever form it takes, whether it's left against right or right against left. It's a disgusting thing. I knew Charlie Kirk years ago. I was a kid who had right-wing views when I was 18, and I used to like his ideas. Now I don't, obviously. But dealing with those kind of ideas, with political violence and murdering people, is absolutely disgusting, and it shows a devaluation of all of our politics. If that's where we're going as a society, it's downhill. I mean, this is really not the way to deal with things. Charlie Kirk's ideas are terrible, right? But they can be dealt with easily by being debunked. In 2 minutes in a debate, I could debunk these things.
Yeah, I think you've hit it on the nail. I just sorry to rush you on. We're running out of time. Pavel, is there a danger sometimes that the message will go wrong and people will lose their lives?
Okay, so I'm going to answer that question from the context of Serbia.
Or Nikolina, I should say as well.
Yeah, we can both answer. So yeah, I'm going to keep it short. Yeah, if you are dealing with a dictatorship, a autocratic regime, there is always a threat of violence or escalation. But the thing that the opposition, and when I say opposition, I mean everybody who is against the regime, has in mind and has been doing with the organization of the protest is strictly keeping them peaceful. Because the only thing that the current regime in Serbia does not know, they don't have the answer to peaceful protests because they are used to violence. They're the ones creating violence. And when you give them the answer of peaceful, they get stuck and they don't know what to do.
Nicolina?
Yeah, I want to be
From your
quick and just to add that all of these stories from the Serbia and Turkey and from the Ukraine and the USA, all we hear is really bad, but I think that they are cost of the freedom and that we really need to be brave to get out this situation and to be continued. And I think that one solution in this situation is to change the narrative of the politics in the Europe and the USA and in the Turkey and the Serbia too, that we need new nations of the people. We need more young people in the politics. We need people who will fight for democracy and for the laws, because that's the whole problem in the Turkey and in the Serbia, because we don't have democracy values, and we need to change people in the politics to get out the oldest politicians maybe, and to get young people who will fight for our freedom.
To inspire them. Isel, is that if you had a message to the EDP, this Congress, this Democratic Party, Democrats Party Congress, what would your message be to the politicians in Europe or in their own member states, what they should be doing on this?
Well, I think my message to politicians in Europe would be that I think every politician here, they know who is Erdogan and what kind of things he's doing, but the people in Turkey, the young people in Turkey, I think we just need spaces to tell our stories, because we are going through really bad times, and also all of us has lots of traumas with police, with politicians and everything, and I think we need our voices to be heard
and represented.
Yeah.
Chris, I'll give you the last word. Your wish, it's your wish list for the guys and girls listening to us in the audience.
Yeah, I'd say just the one thing that from overseas, there is so many of us fighting so hard every single day to push back against Donald Trump and the current administration. Millions and millions and millions of Americans who are so deeply passionate about the fact that these individuals don't care about anybody but themselves. They are anti-American. The values they hold don't represent the United States, and that I find it deeply concerning, and I know millions of Americans do, how quickly we've taken out all of our allies around the world and alienated them, and frankly treated them like shit. There's millions of us that hate it, despise it, and we're working relentlessly to try to move to a new future where the United States can work closely with our allies once again.
You're doing it in different ways, using creativity and courage. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for our panel this afternoon. Isila, Kaelan, Nicolina, Pavel and Chris. I was advised that my salary would be hit if we went overtime. 25 seconds overtime. I didn't do bad, did I? Ladies and gentlemen, just before I conclude, I want to pay tribute to the team at Democrats, particularly our social media team. I have learned of the activities of everybody at the top table through the social media campaign work and news coverage provided by the EDP, by Democrats, home and abroad, so to speak. And I think that's crucial for our party, our group, to continue to highlight this work and particularly to bring you on stage and meet people today. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a pleasure to chair this.
Thank you very much for sharing your hard backgrounds and showing that young people also fight for democracy and rights. So now I would like to continue with the Congress and invite Paola Benanti, the Franciscan priest and leading international thinker on the ethics of technology. He advised Pope Francis on artificial intelligence and serves on global expert bodies, including UN's advisory group on AI. His work explores how rapid innovation can coexist with human dignity, social responsibility, and moral clarity. But before this, if you allow me, as some of you couldn't read the subtitles of Dilek Imamoglu's speech, I will read you the main ideas or the most important things she said. Imamoglu opens by stressing that democracy is a shared responsibility and that when one of us is tested, all of us must stay alert. He notes that Europe and its neighbors are living through a defining moment marked by climate pressures, migration, geopolitical instability, and a growing loss of trust in institutions fueled by disinformation and polarization. The real danger, he warns, is not the scale of global change, but the slow normalization of inequality, injustice, and authoritarianism. Where courts bend to political power and democratic competition is framed as a threat. He calls for a coordinated European approach to confronting extremist ideas and insists that democratic safeguards must be effective, not merely symbolic. Turning to Turkey, he highlights the deep public demand for dignity, integrity, fairness, and good governance, while recalling the political pressures and restrictions he personally faces. Despite this, millions continue to stand up peacefully because they refuse to accept fear-driven injustice as the new normal. Knowing this and knowing that disinformation and technological advances will shape our future, please, Paolo Venanti, the floor is yours. Grazie.
Thank you very much. I'm so happy to be here with you. Let me start telling this. Je ne suis pas la masse qui veut Paris. So let's go straight on the topic. As an ethicist and as a philosopher, I'm teaching at Political Science Luis University in Rome, why I think that technology should need something like ethics. Well, you know, if you look in a standard way how we saw technology, we can imagine that technology in itself is really ambiguous. Because we can have a clapstick, and a clapstick can be a tool to open much more coconut, or could be a weapon to open much more skull of enemies.
A bit more.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry.
But from late 80s, we simply realize in ethics of technology that there is a different perspective than we need to achieve. Every time that a technology simple is deployed inside a society, it works as a form of order and displacement of power. So imagine that you would like to deploy a railway. Where you put the track and where you put the stop, you are allowing someone to take the train, and you are denying to someone else to take the train. And so ethics of technology is simple a questioning of technology that ping on the different stakeholders to allow the different stakeholders to participate to the public debate on the way in which such kind of technology will change the life of people. And now, if this is an ethics of technology, what does it mean to apply such kind of question to AI, to artificial intelligence? In which way AI could be a form of order and displacement of power? Well, to answer to this kind of question, we have to step back a little bit and recognize that there are a new set of tools that simply live in our everyday life. There are the digital tools. Such kind of digital tools could be called, let me use such kind of expression, as a software-defined reality. What is a software-defined reality? Well, let's see probably what is the symbol of such kind of transformation, that is the smartphone. You can buy a smartphone that is actually a square of glass, aluminum, and silicium, and you own the hardware. But what gives the function to such piece of hardware is not anymore what you bought. It's a software, and that software allows the smartphone to do a lot of different things, including make phone call. But you never own such piece of software. You just have a license on such piece of software. And so the new idea of having software-defined reality is changing our times. It's not just the smartphone. Try to think what does it mean to apply a software-defined reality to an EV, to an electric vehicle. Like, for example, a Tesla. You can buy the hardware, but you just have a license on the software. And if the software owner don't allow you to do something with the car, you can't. Or try to think to one of the new supermarkets in which the cashier system is not just something that is used to count how many money you have to pay, but it's a complex computer that is simple handling everything on the scaffold. If the software of such kind of store is broken, the nature of the place is changed forever. It's not anymore a store, it's a warehouse. Nothing can get out, nothing can get in. Or try to think to an hospital. What happens when a ransomware is attacking the hospital? You block the hospital. Nothing is never more possible to do inside such kind of space. So a software-defined reality is something that depends on functionality on the software. But because we don't own the software, 3 fundamental rights that come with ownership are forever modified. According to Roman rights, the source of the law that is also aiming to the European Union, when you own something, you have 3 fundamental rights: the right to use, the right to abuse, and the right to fruits. The right to use means that you can use something as you wish. If you own an horse, you can jump on the horse and go around. You can use the horse, for example, to work on the field. You can abuse it. Well, in Italian tradition, we are used to say you can transform it in a mortadella, that is a kind of food. But you can abuse it. And you can have the fructus. You can rent the horse to someone else and get the money. Well, but try to think what happened with a software-defined reality. Let's start from use. Can you use your software-defined reality as you wish? Can you use your smartphone as you wish? Well, if you own an Apple or if you own an Android, you know very well that the using is not depending on you. Try to transfer a file from a Macintosh computer to an Android device. It's simply impossible. Isn't it yours? You don't have the ownership of such kind of hardware? Yes, but you don't own the software. The abuse, well, you can break it. Someone is happy because if you broke it, you have to buy it again. But what is absolutely subtracted to you is the fructus. There are no such thing as a digital economy. It's the fructus, the right to have the fruits of the using of your digital tools remain to the owners. They have moved to the company that simply are the middle layer inside such kind of software-defined reality. And now, in a world that is software-defined, we are changing the nature of software with AI. Artificial intelligence is changing dynamically what things can do or cannot do, and is moving the ownership to a centralized entity that is the owners of the cloud where such things are happening. But this is a really change of power. It's a new form of power. And if we transform democracy in a software-defined democracy, the owner of the software are the owner of democracy. So it's not just a matter of innovation with digital tools and digital means, but it's a matter to guarantee that the software is corresponding to the democratic constituency of the place that we would like to make as a software-defined place. No one is saying that such kind of innovation cannot become a source of development, but only if such kind of ownership is not breaking the nature of being a citizen, the nature of having some kind of rights that are connected to a software-defined reality. Well, there is another element that I simply would like to stress to you. Ukraine war probably showed to us what does it mean to have a software-defined weapon. You know, the state-of-the-art of a tank, the Abrams tank, the United States cutting-edge tank, it costs $300 million and takes 10 years to be developed and deployed on the field. €1,500 of a software-defined drones can defeat such kind of hardware component. But the problem is another one, that if you go on the front line of the battlefield, the software is uploaded on the drone, a new version of the software, every 7-10 minutes. And it makes of the drone a totally different weapon every time the software is updated. It's changing the nature of the weapon. And so we are used to regulate things that was not software-defined things. We was used to have a regulation for entity in the public space when the entity has a sort of solid conformation. Now that we can have something that can change the nature in itself with a silent software upgrade, how could we regulate such kind of entity inside the public space? So imagine that we start to buy electrical vehicle from China, and we distribute such kind of electrical vehicle in a public space. Well, with a silent software update, they can change their nature. They can devise spies device, or they can become something that can simply burn the battery to produce public disorder. In which way you can define and regulate the public space if the public space is simple made by object that can change their own nature in a moment with a software update? This is a really challenging between the power of regulation that political power has in a public space and this new nature of object that simply are escaping from the traditional way in which we are ruling things. So we know, for example, that if you go to an airport, you cannot bring with you a knife, because if you bring with you a knife, you are dangerous for yourself and for the other. But with a software-defined entity, it could be a tool or a weapon with a simple software upgrade. In which way we can regulate it if we don't have any control on the nature of software that we are putting inside our device? This is an urgency. This is what we need to establish under the democratic power to avoid that the winner of the market are also the winner of democracy, to avoid such kind of melting point. Well, but going more than that, AI is not only the new kind of software that can dynamically change the nature of our object. It's also something that it's really depending on a multi-layer level of technology that we are used to call stack. At the lower level, we have the chip. What is a microchip? A microchip is a transformative power that takes data and obtains information. But one chip is not enough. We need to collect together such kind of chip, and we produce something that we can define data center. A data center is a huge collection of such kind of transformative power that allow AI to exist in the public space. Over that, we have another layer, and it's the software or the model, AI model, that run on the top of the chip and give this power to the stack. At the end of the stack, we have the application. So every time that we use an application, there is a huge stack of elements that make such kind of application possible. And the political issues are for every level of such application. Just to be short and to give you some kind of coordinates, we have a really, really huge problem, for example now, with data center and public infrastructure. We have a social contract that tells to us that innovation is equal to benefits to everyone until yesterday, because we have, what we call infrastructure. We can live together in places that are also 1 million of people because we have a public infrastructure that we call water pipe. We can stay together because we have a public infrastructure that is the electrical power grid. We can stay together because we have a public infrastructure that is the communication infrastructure. Now, data centers are really high-consuming resource of public infrastructure. It knows very well the issues Ireland, in which the 20% of public energy is consumed by such kind of data center. And what is the problem? If such kind of tools, if such kind of entity are consuming the public nature of infrastructure, how we should understand such kind of entity? Are they new form of public infrastructure? Are they super user of public infrastructure? Which kind of priority? And if they consume the electrical power grid, the cost of electricity, the cost of kilowatt for hour, simple skyrocket. We know it very well in the United States, in which in some state, the electrical bill jumped to up 77%, according to the source, compared to the last year. And so this kind of cost go to the family that cannot simply afford, but is also an implicit tax to the industry. And if the industry has to cut more money for energy, they simply reduce the ability to stay in a global market with a lot of competition. And so the diffusion in the European Union of data centers that are not paying back taxes, that consume the public infrastructure, has to be understood and regulated to avoid a deindustrialization for the augmentation of the cost of the energy in the among the European countries. So this could be a different element that pinging on economy in an indirect form and make Europe less competitive according to the other continent. Well, at the end of this perspective, let me stress something that is the new phase of power. You know, a constitutional state has this fundamental law that we call constitution, simple to balance among the different power inside the public space. The new phase of power is a computational power. The power that is connected to digital data, to the ability to transform information and behavioral surplus, enforcing the behavior of people, is the new phase of power. And now such kind of computational power is not under any kind of constitutional power. And we have a lot of law that simply subtract by the power of the single state the control of what's happening inside the data center, especially because we are understanding data center in the form of cloud, in which there is not physical correlation between data and geographical location. So I'm sorry, I'm an ethicist. I have the huge privilege to make questions and run away before giving any kind of answer. But that is your duty, and we count on politicians that can take the issues and try to define a fence to allow the constitutional power to maintain the sovereignty on the challenge of our time. Thank you, and I wish you all the best for your candidacy.
Thank you, Paolo. Defending democracy is in our DNA. Our history, shaped by dictatorships and terrorism, taught us why freedom must be protected. That commitment lives on the Basque National Party's vision of a more democratic, open society. At the same time, our culture reminds us of who we are. Small is beautiful, but also powerful. And the Basque National Party will regard that very high. The European democracy requires alliances that respect diversity and strengthen equality on a global scale. We are now entering the final part of our Congress. We will now present a Europe-wide campaign focused on protecting children. Where are they? Okay. Please let me introduce Sarah El-Haïry, French Minister of State for Biodiversity. She has championed youth causes, equality and civic engagement. And also Sandro Gozzi, Secretary General of the European Democratic Party, a member of the European Parliament. Thank you.
So, we are going to be very fast and very effective, but I cannot renounce to say that this idea came from the excellent work that Sarah El-Haïry has been doing in government and is doing as High Commissioner for Childhood. She spot the light on something which is fundamental. Our future is a threat because our children are a threat, because our children aren't protected, because we don't do enough for the mental health problems, because we don't do enough to multiply opportunities for our future, because we don't do enough to put our constitutional power to take again the word of Parla Benanti over what is happening on the social platform, where our kids are at the mercy of any form of violence. So inspire by the work of Sara El Haïry, we have decided to launch a campaign, to launch a European Pact for Childhood. Now 1 minute on video, and then Sara will tell us everything about our project. So the video can start, please.
I brought my teddy bear. At least someone in this chamber still remembers how to protect the smallest and most vulnerable. But protection is more than a symbol. It means safe schools, green parks, buses, and trains that bring us home safely. It means adults who listen when we feel sad or unwell. That is why I placed my teddy bear here on this podium, to remind you that children's voices must be heard. That is why we call for a true European Pact for Childhood. This is the proposal of us, the European Democrats. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sandro. Thank you so much. Because I think it's necessary to develop multilingualism in democracy. I have a choice, and my choice is to speak in French. So, pour moi, pour nous, l'essentiel, c'est évidemment ces valeurs absolument humanistes et démocratiques. Mais ces valeurs, elles commencent dès le plus jeune âge. Nous avons, dans nos partis respectifs, dans nos pays respectifs, tenter de protéger nos enfants les plus petits, les plus vulnérables. Alors, on parle d'éducation, on parle de santé, on essaye de lutter contre la malnutrition, dès la petite enfance, l'éducation, les soft skills. Mais dans le fond, nous avons oublié peut-être, en tout cas pas suffisamment pris à bras-le-corps, une nouvelle violence, une violence qui va de plus en plus vite et qui est aujourd'hui dans le monde numérique. On vient d'en parler. Parce que nos démocraties sont bousculées, alors les géants, les puissants essayent de fragiliser nos enfants. D'abord les fragiliser en les enfermant dans des bulles algorithmiques, en petit à petit détricotant leur esprit critique, les amenant jusqu'à douter d'eux, douter d'eux-mêmes, douter de leur capacité à réfléchir. On a vu à quel point les conséquences des réseaux sociaux amènent à la dépression, malheureusement à l'isolement et parfois au suicide. Des violences nouvelles, le harcèlement, le cyberharcèlement, l'explosion de la pédocriminalité, partout. Parce que nous n'avons pas le pouvoir, nous n'avons pas encore le pouvoir de ces espaces qu'on a autorisés à rentrer chez nous, dans notre intimité, alors même qu'on parle de l'IA. Aujourd'hui, 1 enfant sur 3 de 13-14 ans dit que son meilleur ami est numérique, est une IA conversationnelle. Et il leur délivre les plus grands secrets, les plus grandes intimités. Que vont devenir ces données ? Comment allons-nous protéger ces enfants qui sont en train de se construire ? Leur cerveau n'est pas fini. Ils sont plus que jamais vulnérables. Ils risquent la manipulation, première et secondaire. Première d'abord, puisqu'on vient d'arrêter il y a quelques jours à peine un jouet, une poupée basée sur de l'IA, une poupée pour les enfants, avec qui on discute, une sorte de beers, un nounours, et qui amenait à avoir des discussions sexuelles avec des enfants. On a quelques jours à peine arrêté dans notre pays, en France, des poupées pédocriminelles, distribuées par des géants, des marketplaces, pour assouvir, malheureusement, les plus grands des dangers, celui de la pédocriminalité. Simplement, en mettant sa carte de crédit, ça arrivait partout en Europe, partout, dans les domiciles de prédateurs. Face à ces géants, qu'ils soient des réseaux sociaux, qu'ils soient pour certains des jeux vidéo, nous avons vu le risque aujourd'hui d'entités comme Roblox, où nous avons vu des prédateurs, nous avons vu des extrémistes essayer de manipuler ces enfants de 8-9 ans, en passant par des messageries. Parce que oui, là où il y a des enfants, il y a des prédateurs. Alors nous, démocrates, nous qui avons peut-être plus que personne le courage de dire non, et de dire non en premier, nous avons le devoir, avec ce pacte, de passer aux actes. Aux actes, c'est quoi ? Renforcer, bien sûr, notre régulation. DSA, DMA, Thierry Breton l'a dit, le président Bayrou l'a rappelé, nous n'avons rien de plus précieux que cette génération qui arrive et à qui nous souhaitons léguer des pays qui respectent les droits humains, la dignité, qui les protègent, qui combattent ces inégalités à la naissance, qui luttent contre les discriminations et les déterminismes sociaux. Mais comment le faire dans un monde virtuel dérégulé ? Comment le faire dans un monde où nous pas nos propres règles. Plus de 6000% de contenus pédocriminels dans le monde. La moitié d'entre eux sont générés par de l'IA. Alors face à ça, quelles pourraient être nos réponses? La première, faire du judo avec cette IA. Faire que la tech soit de la tech for good. Que cette IA, aujourd'hui où il y a des milliards d'investissements pour lutter contre la contrefaçon des grandes marques, parce que ces marketplaces protègent en réalité les grandes marques où il y a des intérêts, utilisent cette même technologie pour protéger nos enfants. Que cette IA qui aujourd'hui enferme dans l'algorithme n'ait pas le droit d'être aujourd'hui orientée par des GAFAM si elle touche des enfants de moins de 13 ans, parce qu'ils n'ont pas le pouvoir de distinguer, ils n'ont pas le pouvoir de la distance, d'interdire des fonctionnalités, oui, d'interdire l'échange et la messagerie quand ce sont des enfants. Parce qu'encore une fois, il y a de la prédation. Face à cette prédation, la Tech for Good, celle qui sera notre acte, celle qui sera le rendez-vous à la rentrée au printemps, ce sera un ensemble de solutions pour nos pays, pour nos villes, pour nos enfants, où on aura réussi à réunir des chercheurs, des ingénieurs, des petits geeks, des génies de l'informatique qui feront de cette révolution numérique, en réalité, peut-être le plus grand des boucliers. Pour nous permettre, nous, au quotidien, dans nos villes, de bâtir des villes à hauteur d'enfants, des villes qui vont les protéger dans leur mobilité, avec de l'air plus sain, avec de la nature, avec de l'éducation, pour qu'on puisse reprendre le pouvoir sur la vie, leur vie quotidienne. Et au lieu de combattre face à des géants, nous aurons le bouclier créé contre eux, mais pour protéger nos enfants, partout dans le monde. Pour le coup, plus que jamais, cet acte a vocation à devenir plus qu'un pacte, mais une coalition. Et le président l'a dit et le répète, le meilleur moment de dire non, c'est le premier. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. We launch officially the European Path for Child. We count on you all. Thank you.
Thank you both for your meaningful talk. Also, in the European languages we own, French, also Gothic Italian, for example, our Basque, because diversity is part of Europe's DNA, and diversity is also our strength. We must be proud of who we are, we as Basques, for example, but also as Europeans. In Basque, we have a saying that more or less can simplify this, and it's txapela buruan eta ibili munduan, which more or less means keep your identity, but engage with the world. Solidarity, dignity, community, democracy are values worth sharing with the world. Because our values, European democratic values, traditions and culture strengthen the European ones, and vice versa. Zorionak, that was beautiful. But sadly, it's not as beautiful a time for Europe and democracy as it was this dance. These are dark times for Europe. Populist political parties are reaching office, rolling back rights we fought hard to secure, and threatening the welfare state that took us decades to build. Global alliances are essential to stop this regression, and that is the focus of our next panel, Democracy and Global Alliances, moderated by Laurence Fagan. She will be accompanied by Alan Friedman, Manish Tiwari, and Yosuke Suzuki. Please, a big applause for them.
Yes. Oh, sorry. I thought it was already okay. So it's the international chapter of our Congress, a very important one because we have very prestigious guests around us, and I thank them in the name of European Democratic Party very much to be there with us. So first I would like to call Alan Friedman. Alan Friedman, sorry. Thank you. So, Alan Friedman, maybe I will introduce you in the second round. I will welcome our next guest. Then I would like to invite Manish Tiwari to join us on the stage. Manish Tiwari is a member of the Indian Parliament, and I will go further in the way I will introduce you. Thank you very much. Thank you. And finally, Yosuke Suzuki, please join us on the stage. Yosuke Suzuki is a Japanese member of the Parliament of the Constitutional Democratic Party. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. As I mentioned, it's quite an important moment for us because we work a lot, of course, at the European level, but not only. We have strong links with third countries in the European continent. We see members from Serbia, for example, where we fight together a lot for democracy. And we are very keen on discovering your reflections, the challenges that you face in all democracy. We have big democracy around the table, but everything is changing very quickly with new challenges. So maybe I would like to go a little bit further in the presentation. Alan Friedman, you are an American journalist and author, particularly renowned for your sharp analysis on global politics and economics. And you work a lot on all the, how would I say that, the Donald Trump's artwork currently, and growing authoritarianism under this current Trump administration and presidency. Manish Tiwari, you are a member of the Indian Parliament for Indian National Congress, and of course you're the main opponent to Narendra Modi in your party, so it will be very useful to hear from you. We went to India and to the parliament with a group of the European Parliament, so we have many discussions with the government, and that was really a little bit frightening. And finally, Yosuke Suzuki, you are, as I said, a Japanese member of the Parliament of the Constitutional Democratic Party, sorry. And here again, opponent to the Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi, who defines herself as the Japanese Margaret Thatcher, and very close to Donald Trump as well. So maybe on the first round, I think we have to respect the timeline. We have a sharp agenda. Maybe I will give you the floor. Maybe you could explain us what do you think the democracy, the threat democracy are facing today? Are they common or different? How do you see that? Is there an international illiberalism or regional illiberalism? And then in the second part, we could consider how, together, we could build alliances of democrats, as our president said in this introduction, because it's our goal, our target, and we are fighting for that, as you saw in our introduction. So maybe, Alan, I will give you the floor on this first part.
Thank you very much, and bonsoir, and hola to everyone here. It's a big subject. We heard micro cases of the fight for democracy before in various countries. We're living at a time of epical change. We're living in a time where the old world order, the liberal world order of democracy, is now being seriously challenged. In fact, I've gone so far as to write a book called The End of America, A Guide to the New World Disorder, because I believe that Donald Trump, together with his friends who are dictators mainly and right-wing nationalists and extremists, including not just Erdogan and Putin, but also the very disappointing and horrible Mr. Modi, who is a dreadful Prime Minister of India and is doing terrible things in the name of nationalism to Indian democracy and the free press and human rights. But I'm honored to be here today because Europe and the European Union, to this American who lives in Europe, is the last bulwark of human rights and civil rights in the entire world today. And I say that not as a rhetorical flourish, but because I believe it. And in my country, having a president who is arresting judges, intimidating Harvard, manipulating Wall Street, doing insider trading, making billions corruptly from the White House, taking away the rights of minorities, of women, of gays, and destroying everything that the United States ever stood for, in that tragedy that is called America today, we must get together and defend democracy around the world, because Trump is a cancer that is spreading around the world. And to mix my metaphors, the European Union is facing a tsunami of extreme right-wing populism and nationalism right now, which in 2027 could bring a neo-fascist leader like Bardella to the presidency in the Élysée in France, could bring Nigel Farage to the 10 Downing Street in the UK, and mercifully the Italian right-wing government is more moderate than some of its crazy allies, except for Salvini. But we're looking at a world where the neo-Nazis are the largest single political party in Germany and destined to be strong even though they're not in government. So we're looking at a world where basic human rights and basic civil rights are under threat. In the United States, I am very fearful that whatever happens in our midterm elections next year, even if the Democrats regain the House, the structural damage that Donald Trump's behavior is doing to American society and democracy, to our democratic institutions, will take America not 3 years or 4 years to recover from, but 1 or 2 generations, 10 or 20 years, even after Trump is gone, because our country has become a place of rising political violence. I could go on, but I'll stop. I'll just leave you with 2 statistics. Among Americans, latest polls by Pew show that 1 in 4 Americans now believe that violence is justifiable in everyday politics. Among those people who voted for Trump, not once, but twice, 45% of them believe that violence is the right thing to do, including murder. So we're talking about an America that is changing. And I'll just close by saying in America that is not your reliable ally anymore, my European friends. Do not trust, do not count, do not rely on Donald Trump. He is in bed with Vladimir Putin. He is funding and helping pro-Putin European politicians. He is taking money where he can, and he will betray Ukraine and Europe. You must stand up for yourself and forget America, at least for the next 3 years.
Thank you. Manish Tiwari, as a decision maker, as an opponent to Narendra Modi, do you leave the same challenges? Because we feel that the issue in India is nationalism, but the attack to democracy doesn't seem so evident than in America. But what do you live exactly? Because we go on saying it's the first democracy in the world and so on. So can you explain us if you face the same challenges, if you have the same attack, and if it does take the same form than in EU and in EU, yes, because we have Hungary, for example, don't forget, but in USA?
Well, first and foremost, let me thank Mr. Sandro Gozzi, all his colleagues, the organizers for inviting me to this Congress of the European Democratic Party. It's indeed a pleasure being here and listening to people who were narrating their experiences and sharing their ideas before this panel kicked off. As Mr. Gozzi instructed me in his email to talk about India, so allow me a few minutes to explain as to what our democratic trajectory has been and what are the challenges that we continue to face as a country. Let me start right at the beginning. So, 2 years after the Second World War ended, India got its independence, but it was an independence which was stained by imperial chicanery. India was divided, a partition which unfortunately unleashed the largest movement or population transfer in recorded history, a story which has not been completely told at this point in time, even at this point in time. And out of that partition were born three things: an Islamic Pakistan and two visions of India. A vision that believed that notwithstanding a religious partition, India should become that umbrella where people, irrespective of caste, creed, color, religion, region, gender, and every other inequality, should be treated as equal citizens of a new republic that was being constituted. And there were others who believed that since we'd had a religious partition, it should go to a logical conclusion, and India should also become a majoritarian theocratic state. The proponents of the first vision actually won the battle in the initial years of India's independence. And 299 of the finest kindred souls sat for 3 years and crafted the founding document of India, the Grundnorm, the Constitution of India, and in which they embodied some of the finest values of that time: justice, equity, freedom of speech and expression, freedom of religion, and that has really held the field for the past 7 decades. The harbingers of the later vision have been in office for the past 11 years. And notwithstanding the fact that Prime Minister Modi is my political opponent, I do not agree with Mr. Friedman's characterization of the Prime Minister of India for the simple reason that he's been elected as the Prime Minister of India by a majority of the people of India for a third time. And if democracy was really dead in India, it wouldn't be the case that the ruling coalition has 292 members of parliament in the lower house, while the opposition coalition has 232 members in the lower house. So therefore, every democracy has its challenges. Every democracy has cycles that it has to contend with. But those challenges do at times come with a degree of disproportionality. But for anyone to characterize that Indian democracy is dead and over and its obituary is being written or has been written, I think is a complete and absolute mischaracterization, for the lack of a better word. Yes, there has been the rise of right-wing populism. There are 4 concurrent conflicts playing themselves out. There is the attempt by the Trump administration to try and subvert and undercut the global architecture of trade and commerce. There has not been the too peaceful rise of China ever since Xi Jinping has taken over in 2012 as the president of the Chinese state. And these are trends which must make Democrats around the world who believe in certain foundational and core values to really come together, to really coalesce together, and to fight for the protection of those.
On this point, because it's quite interesting. Now, Yosuke Suzuki, I would like to ask you the same question. From Japan, what are the main issues on democracy, and what do you leave as an opponent?
Okay, so first of all, let me express my sincere gratitude for inviting a Constitutional Democratic Party to this great gathering. I'm very honored to be here. Let me explain what's going on in the Far East, Japan, the politics right now. For 70 years, most of the time, the conservative liberal democratic party was the ruling party of our country. However, the last general election held 2024, it couldn't secure the majority of the seat. Then this year we had an election over councillors, and they also lost a lot of seats. The reason why they lost the seat was the surge of the far-right learning party named Sanseito. Sanseto's main color is also an orange, though. Yeah. The Sanseito is like xenophobic content and anti-immigrant the party. So then a lot of the conservative voters migrated from LDP to Sanseito. Then the LDP chose Takaichi, our current prime minister. She was known as a very far-right politician. They chose her as the president, the leader of the party. Then there was a coalition party named Komeito. It is kind of the liberal party. The Komeito felt uncomfortable to be with Takaichi, so they left a coalition. Takaichi tried to have another coalition partner, to find another coalition partner. It is named the Innovation Party of Japan. This is far more right than Takaichi. So now Japanese politics is pulled to right. We are on the crossroad where the European countries confronted for ages. And what we, Constitutional Democratic Party, as a centrist, what we have to do is we need to provide solutions to the people, like how we can keep the inclusive and coherent society for the next generation. So this is a very good opportunity for me too to learn from all of you how the Far East Asia country, Japan, should behave from now in that kind of a political, under that kind of political situation.
But today, do you live, because Japan appears comme an old democracy, stable government and so on, but do you live some attacks today?
Well, of course, other countries, if we see the mobile phone, there were so many contexts of like a xenophobic and anti-immigrant issues. And yeah, when you see the Japanese X, there are so many bad words or something like that. But well, the next general election might be held very soon because Takaichi has a very high approval rate right now. So if in the next general election, if we lose, maybe Japan will have another aspect of the political era, I think.
A new era is coming, maybe, unfortunately. Maybe we could have a second part on this idea of an international democratic alliance. First, maybe we can have an idea of how Democrats are organized in their own country. And I look at you, Alan, because there are some points in the Democratic Party, in the Democrats in the USA. But in the second time, how could we build together? What can we imagine? Some maybe a platform, a common platform, common ideas, gathering, big events, a global alliance, I don't know. Have you ever think about that?
Absolutely, absolutely. The challenge of how we fight back and how the Democrats and the opposition in America and in other countries are in disarray or not well organized is something I would happily devote 2 minutes to if I could just say one other thing. Often when members of parliament from Japan or India or the United States or any other country come together on a public platform, especially outside their country, they're very diplomatic, they're polite, and they're careful and cautious. And that's what you're seeing here tonight. When I worked for the White House and the Pentagon, I was the same. Careful, cautious, never criticize your own country abroad. So let me do it for you. I disagree violently with the statement by this Delhi intellectual who sounds like somebody who is in the BJP party rather than the Congress party of the Gandhis. His defense of Modi is not a good argument. The proof is that whether you ask Vijay Jain of the Times or Prannoy Roy of television or Mukesh Ambani or any of the leaders of Indian industry and politics, they are examples of how a corrupt government run by Modi with a man who makes people disappear as his chief of staff called Amit Shah, a very controversial man linked to the mafia in India, are basically controlling industry, politics, nationalizing everything, and conducting a racist war against Muslims in India, inciting Hindu violence. That's all I want to say about India. Japan, I don't know enough about to comment on, and I respect the fact that you have a very tough new leader who likes Trump and will try to get on and should be a bit more diplomatic with the Chinese, because if she attacks the Chinese too often, she's going to make trouble in Taiwan and invite disaster. Those are just opinions, which we are free to disagree with, of course. In my country, the Democrats, the Republicans in the Congress have remained on their back, supine, afraid to be primaried by Trump. The Democrats have shown very little leadership. As we sit here on this stage in Bilbao, the new mayor of New York, Mr. Mamdani, is going into the White House right about now. He's going to have a meeting in the Oval Office. Trump will insult him. It'll be on the television news tonight, and that will be that. But let me make some serious points. The Democratic Party right now has only one thing going for it: the fact that you can fool some of the people some of the time, but not all of the people all of the time. So there are some Americans including those who voted for Trump, who are beginning to wake up and understand that his trade wars and his anti-democratic moves are bad for America, bad for the economy, bad for democracy, and generally bad.
Yes, we finally saw this wave of protests.
We saw the protest in the election. However, remember everyone, New York is not America. New York City is a left-wing, radical chic. I'm a New Yorker. All right? We're a city of left-wing intellectuals and homosexuals and aggressive artists, and we are not America. America is a different country. Manhattan, you could take on a barge, anchor off the coast of Calais, and it would be fine. Manhattan is not America. So what happens in New York and Mamdani is not about American politics. What happened in Virginia and New Jersey with the election of right-wing, center-right Democrats, former military and CIA agents, people like Abigail Spanberger, you met Abigail Spanberger, people like Cheryl in New Jersey. This is the future of the Democratic Party, moving to the center, moving right of center, even though it's the Democratic Party, because America today is not going to elect a Mamdani. America, as Michelle Obama said 3 days ago, will not elect a woman. America will not elect a person who is not white. America will not elect a Jew. America will not elect a homosexual. America is currently in a very right-wing, ignorant phase. And it's not just about Americans who are shifting to the right. It's that 90% of American people don't care about politics. They're just getting on with their working lives, and they just want to go to the shopping center on the weekends and engage in the American national sport of buying things at Target, Costco, and Walmart. That's what we Americans are about. We call those ignorant American voters, very politely, low information voters, because they have low information and understanding and sophistication. America's Democratic Party has no leaders. Bernie Sanders is too left-wing. Alessandro Ocasio and Mamdani are too left-wing. Gavin Newsom could emerge as a presidential candidate. He's an opportunist. He's charming. He's got a social conscience, but he's pro-business. But really, our country is not about the next election. It's about the damage done to the fabric of the country that once believed in democracy, and how America has lost its leadership and credibility around the world today. Lost its leadership and credibility and reputation as a country that believed in human rights. Betrayed Europe. What is going on right now with the ignorant Stephen Witkoff, a crony of Trump, whose family is making billions off crypto in Dubai and Abu Dhabi and, of course, Saudi Arabia, with Prince Bonesaw. Prince Bonesaw got a very good reception at the White House. You know who I mean when I say Prince Bonesaw? Principe Sega Osso. How do you say that en français? Mohammed bin Salman. He was welcomed.
What he said, he was a beautiful democrat.
He had a beautiful moment of a democratic country with a wannabe dictator in the White House and a real dictator from Saudi Arabia visiting and doing a lot of money business. Because it's about money for Trump.
Alan, excuse me, do the American Democrats consider European, Indian, Japanese Democrats to build something together?
No. There are very few, I would say 1% to 2% of American Democratic leaders even know who the leaders of Democrats are around the world. We're a provincial country of 340 million Americans. Most people could not tell you what country Bilbao is in, who's the head of Spain, or where Spain is. This is America. It is not a country that cares about the rest of the world. Are there people at the Center for American Progress and fashionable think tanks in Washington and Boston and New York who know everything about Japanese and Indian politics and are caring, thoughtful people? Yes. What does the intelligentsia, the people who read the New York Times or the Financial Times or the Wall Street Journal, the people who are politicians, academics, and media leaders, what does that group of intellectually aware people amount to in America? 10 or 15 million out of 340 million? 2 or 3%, maybe 20 million people. We have a small intellectual elite. We don't care about the rest of the world. The best way to defend Europe, I repeat, is not to seek help from the American Democrats who are very busy right now trying to survive and reinvent themselves. You have to get together among those European countries that care. And let me say something controversial and then let the others talk. I am in favor of the coalition of the willing in Europe who are Democrats and who will stand up and defend Europe. If that means that England, which is no longer in Europe, but Starmer, who behaves like a European more than a lot of others, decide that France and Germany and Britain, to name the three big ones, and Poland, not so much Spain because of Sanchez, doesn't really care about getting involved in that. Not so much Meloni, because she's got her own agenda. Certainly not Orban, certainly not the Serbs, certainly not Geert Wilders, certainly not the many right-wingers who will be winning elections in your European Parliament next time and ousting some of you Democrats. I'm very pessimistic about what's happening, and I would like people at the cocktail afterwards to tell me, Alan, you're too pessimistic. Things are getting better. We Democrats can actually do something.
Thank you. Manish Tewari, same question on this question of alliances, because we saw this terrible picture a few weeks and months ago of Xi Jinping with Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-il. So it was the coalition of the worst, I would say. How could you imagine from your country the sensitivity in your party, particularly, of building this kind of alliance of Democrats?
Well, I would like to start with a word of caution. And that word of caution, which I think needs to be underscored, is that the worst mistake which the Democrats can make is demonizing your opponents. Let's not forget the fact that for a very, very long time, in a lot of countries around the world, the Democrats have been in office. And if you have someone of an alternative political disposition in office today in different countries around the world, the objective should be to fight them politically. The objective should be to defeat them politically. In fact, by demonizing them, you really play into their hands. And I'm sorry to disappoint Mr. Friedman, but unfortunately, my constituency is not Delhi. And I have not been elected to parliament for 3 times by 2.2 million people, representing 3 different constituencies, if there would have been all gloom and doom in India. And all my 3 elections, or 4 elections, has been fought against the people who are in government today. But however, I will fight them politically, I will not demonize them, and I will definitely not use language which is objectionable about my political opponents. That's not my, please, I heard you. That's not my creed. Having said that, yes, there are certain core values that we believe in. And the best defense of those core values comes by going out and mobilizing people, by getting their support in a democratic manner, ensuring that you are able to come into government and implement what you think are those right values and the policies that flow out of it. And under those circumstances, if a coalition of people who believe in those core values around the world needs to be conceptualized, and yes, there are a number of such platforms which are already existing. Another one which makes that effort, or which takes that initiative, is something which needs to be welcomed. But again, let me close by saying the fight is political, and the fight is for the hearts and minds of the people. And therefore, victory is going to come by influencing people to vote for you, not by demonizing your opponents.
So, Yosuke Suzuki, It's kind of same question. Finally, we talk about platform, but we come back to the domestic questions and the democratic fight. But can you see something wider from your country in one kind of alliance, maybe gathering young people as well? Because we didn't talk about this movement all across the world of the new generation asking for something different.
Yes, as you mentioned, like for 99% of Japanese people, the politics is a thing held on the far away, especially young people who are just thinking about what to eat next, like how they can increase their wages or something like that. So it's kind of the same issue all over the world, how we can touch them. That's why we are trying to use SNS and something like that. However, we also might have had Russian interference of the internet, the electoral voting for the interference. So what we have to think about when we say about the young generation, like firstly, we need more education in terms of the politics to them. And let me mention to the coalition between China and North Korea and Russia. For us, so we are facing all the countries by the sea. So for us, it's a very like a national security issue. What we are worrying about is dictatorship is more resilient than democracy, because they can easily transform the figure of the country. However, we need to take a time. So some Japanese people started to think that kind of system of the countries are much easier to leave, because we, Japan, need to take a long time to reform, to change, and to transform everything. So this is another issue we Democrats, we liberal Democrats are facing right now.
Thank you so much. I'm very sorry because it's too short. This debate should go on for hours, I guess. Once again, I want to thank you very warmly for your presence here. I know you have many exchanges with our General Secretary, Sandro Gozzi. I hope we will be able to come and visit you in USA, of course, but in India and in Japan, to have exchanges, because when we came to India with the parliament, we had many exchanges on this point of education, for example, and how to build exchanges in the future, so it was very interesting. Thank you again. Thank you for coming in Bilbao in the European Democratic Progress, and I see we have many projects in front of us and many challenges to face, but thank you again. Thank you.
Thank you. And last but not least, as we enter the final stretch of this Congress, I am honored to invite to the stage the President of the Basque National Party, Aitor Esteban, recently elected lead of PNB, after many years representing the Basque people in Spain's capital, in Madrid, and ensuring that our voices are heard. Please, a big applause.
Jaun Andreok, zu guztiok gure artean egotea guretzat, gure berrian, Euskadin guretzat atsegina, benetan da, eta ohorea. Europako hizkuntza bizirik sarrena duen herrian zaudete, Frantziar eta Espainiar estatuetan dagoen herria. Nuestro partido, el PNV, acaba de cumplir 130 años de historia. Nacimos en 1895, cuando aún estaba vivo el espíritu de los grandes procesos de reunificación nacional de Alemania o Italia. Estuvimos en la conferencia de Versalles tras la Primera Guerra Mundial. Luchamos contra Franco y la Legión Cóndor que destruyó Guernica. Luchamos y espiamos para los aliados en la Segunda Guerra Mundial. Soportamos 40 largos años de represión durante la dictadura de Franco, ilegalización, prohibición de nuestra lengua y exilio. Y contribuimos posteriormente de manera fundamental a recuperar el autogobierno del País Vasco, que desde entonces hemos liderado como partido más votado. Y contribuimos también a dar estabilidad al Estado español una vez instaurada la democracia. Sabemos, pues, qué es no tener libertad y cuán preciada es. Nuestra historia nos enseñó que un pueblo pequeño puede defender también valores inmensos, porque el nuestro es un pueblo antiguo, pero no un pueblo anclado en el pasado. Hemos sabido sobrevivir, adaptarnos y avanzar, y ese mismo espíritu es el que hoy queremos ofrecer a Europa. Por eso desde Euskadi, desde nuestra pequeña nación, venimos a decir que Europa necesita más diversidad, no menos, más lenguas, no menos, más pueblos reconocidos. Dear friends, Europe is at a defining moment. This is not a cliché. We are at a crossroads. Who would have told us 20 years ago that we would have to unite around the defense of democracy in Europe because it was in danger? Europe, the cradle of democracy, which nurtured and perfected over the centuries and which laid the foundations of the rule of law. Europe, which withstood dark times, which overcame the temptation of totalitarianism time and again, and now is once again facing the threat of totalitarian darkness. And for the first time since the Second World War, Europe is at war on its borders, and at the same time watches with concern the return to the White House of a leader that questions the alliances and the multilateral architecture that has given us peace and stability. And yes, effectively, American government is no longer an ally anymore. Quiero dirigirme a las nuevas generaciones. Nada está garantizado, nada. Se debe luchar cada día por aquello que anhelas, por lo que defiendes, por la libertad, por los derechos humanos. Ha costado mucho sacrificio y pérdida de vidas construir un sistema de valores democráticos. Y la democracia liberal no es perfecta, ya lo sabemos, pero es el mejor de los sistemas existentes. Debemos defenderla sin complejos, pero también sin ingenuidad. Quienes quieren destruirla ya no se esconden. Y los principios en que se basa, en especial la libertad de expresión, son su fortaleza, pero también su debilidad. La irrupción de la realidad digital es algo para lo que la democracia no estaba preparada. Hoy las ideas extremistas y los mensajes polarizados se abren paso sin equilibrios críticos ni debate en nuestros teléfonos o nuestras televisiones. Es el tiempo de las soluciones fáciles, el tiempo de la deshumanización del adversario, el tiempo de imponer en vez de acordar. Y hoy lo sencillo es apuntarse a esa moda. Por eso lo revolucionario hoy, lo disruptivo, lo valiente, lo nuevo, es reivindicar el centro. ¿Quién lo iba a decir? Reivindicar el equilibrio, el diálogo, la estabilidad, los acuerdos, las soluciones complicadas frente a las sencillas. Y eso lo representa el centro, lo representamos nosotras y nosotros. Porque el centro no es una teoría, es la única posición política que ha demostrado que sabe dar estabilidad y respuestas en los momentos verdaderamente difíciles. El centro no es tibieza, no nos engañemos, el centro es responsabilidad. Es el espacio donde se toman las decisiones que sostienen un país, no las que lo rompen. De même que l'Europe est incompréhensible sans démocratie, la défense de la démocratie ne peut être efficace que depuis une Europe unie. Pour y parvenir, nous devons renforcer ces institutions. La meilleure arme pour la démocratie est une Europe qui fonctionne. Et si l'Europe veut que sa jeunesse croie en elle, La jeunesse doit être une priorité stratégique. L'Europe doit être un projet crédible, fiable et attractif pour les nouvelles générations. Cela commence par la prise en compte de leur mécontentement face à des problèmes tels que les logements, la précarité de l'emploi et la santé mentale. Elles veulent une Europe qui ne les arrête pas, mais qui les propulse vers le futur. Elles veulent vivre, pas seulement survivre. Ils veulent de véritables opportunités, pas des promesses recyclées. C'est l'engagement que nous devons prendre. Y estoy convencido de que las jóvenes y los jóvenes vascos no están dispuestos a renunciar al sueño europeo, a volver a concepciones estatales que hoy en día no ofrecen soluciones en un mundo globalizado. La juventud vasca es cada vez más europea, pero no está dispuesta a renunciar a lo que somos. Ser europeos no borra nuestra identidad, la multiplica. Dugu erronka asko gainditu dituen herria gara, hemen gaude, eta etorkizunean berton jarraituko dugu. Nazio europearra gara, eta gure ibilbide demokratiko eta autogobernuaz harro gaude. Baina Europako erakundekiko harreman estuagoa behar dugu. Estaturik gabeko nazioetarako gune berezia eskatzen dugu erregioetatik bereiztuta. Europak estatuen barneko anistasuna aitortu, onartu behar dago. Errealitate giza politikoak egokitu. Bere hasierako printzipioei men egingo balie, ezin luke Europak bere hizkuntza ondarea baztertu. Ez da Euskadi bezalako nazio eskariei entzungor egin. Europako batasuna benetakoa izango bada bere hizkuntza guztiak berdintasunean aitor ditzan, bere bazterrezineko ondarea direlako. Eta horregaitik euskararen ofizialtasuna europear erakundeetan eskatzen dugu. Europa indartsua izango da, ezberdina, bakarra bihurtzen duena babesteko gauza bada soilik. Eta bere biztanle guztiak onartuak, aitortuak sentitzen badira. ¿Quién recuerda ya la soberanía estratégica que en plena pandemia Europa vio que debía construir? Porque pasadas las estrecheces de aquel momento ya pocos se acuerdan. Y nosotros, todos nosotros, debemos poner el acento en ello. Y Euskadi puede ayudar, con su experiencia en algunos campos, a abrir caminos y sugerir líneas de actuación. Necesitamos soberanía en ámbitos fundamentales como el energético, el digital y el industrial. Y entre todos, entre todas, lo podemos conseguir. Pero más allá de las promesas abstractas, Europa tiene que volver a emocionar. Si no toca la vida cotidiana, la ciudadanía desconecta. Tenemos que hacerla cercana, humana y que ofrezca soluciones prácticas. Europa tiene que ser el continente donde las cosas suceden y las cosas funcionan. Una Europa que funciona es una Europa que cuida. Por eso no puede ser un laberinto burocrático. Tiene que ser una aliada de quien produce, de quien cuida, de quien estudia, de quien arriesga. No puede hacer la vida imposible a agricultores o autónomos. Tiene que ser servicio, agilidad y confianza. Europa necesita líderes que unan, no que rompan. Gobiernos que escuchen, no que griten. Proyectos que inspiren, no que aterroricen. Y aunque sean tiempos oscuros, creo que debemos mirar al futuro con optimismo. Claro que se puede vencer a los extremismos y a la antipolítica. Los holandeses han mostrado el camino recientemente. Que no cunda, pues, desánimo alguno. El centro es el futuro, es la roca de estabilidad que necesitan nuestras sociedades. Es desde el centro, desde donde debemos proceder a iniciar la tarea de rehacer el gran andamiaje europeo del futuro, con herramientas nuevas, pero la misma alma y valores de siempre. Y es el Partido Demócrata Europeo quien mejor representa esos valores. Bajemos a la calle, trabajemos, defendamos la democracia, conquistemos la libertad. Europe was not born to surrender. It was born to move forward, even in the darkest times. And we will continue to do so if we defend what makes it strong: democracy, freedom, and its internal diversity. The Basque Country knows this well. We know the cost of freedom, and precisely for that, the lack of freedom, and precisely for that reason, we will never let Europe regress. We are a small nation, but with an immense commitment to build unite and defend Europe when it is most needed. The European future is decided here, now, and depends on our courage. And let no one doubt it. Europe will move forward. Democracy will move forward because there are people like ours, like yours, who never give up. Thank you very much. Eskerrik asko.
Eskerrik asko, Aitor. Thank you. As you have said, the Basques and the Basque Country will continue to build Europe. And little by little, we are getting closer to the final of this Congress. So in order to do so, I would like to call our Secretary General, Sandra Gotzit, to take the stage. Thank you.
Gabon, Lagun Maiteok. Good evening to all of you. Muchísimas gracias a nuestros anfitriones vascos, al querido Aitor, al PNV, a todos los que habéis venido hoy. Sin vosotros no habría sido posible organizar este fantástico evento. Muchas gracias. Last week, I was in Toronto with some colleagues of our parliamentary group, Renew Europe. We met several ministers of the federal level and members of the Parliament of the Liberal Party of Canada. It was the first time that such meeting happened. The message we shared was very clear. The Atlantic has shrunk, and we are increasingly confronted with the same dangers and the same challenges. I would go further. The world has become a much smaller place and a much more dangerous place. And it is in this current world of disorder that we, European Democrats, can offer something different from other European political parties. This is true both in Europe and in the world. We are the only radical alternative to a right and to a European People's Party which has sold its values and sold out its soul to the extreme right. And we are the radical alternative to a left that is more and more divided and more conservative and backward-looking. Today, democracy is under attack, even in places where no one would have expected. This is why we are ready to take risks. Because we are not living in ordinary times. We are living in a time of violence, of disinformation, and of cowardice, where some forces spread fake news and disinformation, and other forces deny the political and societal reality we are living. And in this period, we must stand against all the odds and speak up. We must tell the truth about the crisis of democracy and to tell the truth about the need for reform to regenerate politics. To tell the truth about the need to adapt our economic and social models to the challenges of the artificial intelligence revolution, shifting demographics, and rising global competition. In a time where many parties want to make people believe that everything is black and white, we, the Democrats, have the courage of the nuance. Et je tiens à saluer le courage et la détermination dont tu as fait preuve, notre fondateur et président François Bayrou, dans ton combat pour tout cela en tant que Premier ministre français. Vous pouvez l'applaudir. Tu as raison, François. Tu as raison, François, quand tu nous invites à prendre des risques, comme tu l'as fait aussi devant le Parlement français. Tu as raison d'affirmer que dans la période historique extraordinaire que nous vivons, et je te cite, plus grands risques et de ne pas en prendre, de laisser continuer les choses sans que rien ne change, de faire de la politique comme d'habitude, de faire durer, sans prendre les décisions qui s'imposent, jusqu'au moment où l'irréparable est là. Oui, François, nous sommes prêts à prendre des risques, car nous vivons un moment de tous les dangers. Et nous saluons, encore une fois, ton courage, ta cohérence et ta vision. Years ago, when we started this journey, under the leadership of François Bayrou, of Romano Prodi, Francesco Rutelli, we all agreed that the European Democratic Party had to become a political startup, not a heavy bureaucratic structure as some of the other European parties. We must be a political laboratory, able to react, to experiment, and to move fast. Today, we can proudly say we went beyond that promise. The European Democratic Party is no longer just a startup. Today, we are a true political accelerator. We accelerate people, projects, and alliances that believe in liberal democracy. So, dear friends, the European Democratic Party continues to grow, and to anyone with two eyes, it is very obvious why. Because we understand that the battle for democracy and the rule of law in Europe and outside Europe is the political battle of our time. And this is why I want to thank again Esila, Kaulan, Pavel, Nicolina, the Mayor Imamoglu for their bravery. It is an absolute imperative for one to win this battle. There is no other option for us European Democrats. That is why we must continue to fight for democracy in Hungary, in Serbia, in Turkey, in Ukraine, and, dear Alan, now also in the United States. Yes, in the United States. And I want to thank again our American friends present here today, Chris Mowbray and Alan Friedman. Friends, ask yourselves why. Is that Trump hates the European Union so much? That he says that the European Union was conceived to screw the United States? Ask you why. In my view, it's because we are the mirror of what the United States used to be. A beacon of democracy. A place where rule of law matters. A place where fundamental rights are protected. And a place where diversity is a value we cherish and not a danger to suppress. And because, therefore, we are an obstacle to his vision, to the Trump vision, all based on the brutal use of force and on total unpredictability. And speaking of around the world, we are living a real paradox. The nationalists, the post-fascists, the extremists are cooperating internationally much more than us. It is a paradox. The nationalist believes in international cooperation. We are further seeing more and more collaboration between Trumpists, MAGA in the US, with far-right movements in Europe. Rassemblement National, Vox, Lega, Fratelli d'Italia, Alternative für Deutschland, and unfortunately, many others. We are seeing the conservative right, the European People's Party, increasingly falling under the cultural hegemony of the extreme right. It is clear in France. It is clear in Greece, dear Stefanos. It is clear in Italy, dear friend of Italia Viva. And it is clear more, I'm speaking to my colleague, in the European Parliament. And we see European governments happily submitted to their new American master. Meloni and Orban are the best examples. They are very happy to be vassals. They are very happy to be vassals. And in Europe, we got too many useful idiots of Trump and Putin who want to erode our democracy and block our union from within. At the same time, we are being confronted with new predators, new techno-populist alliances between Trump and tech billionaires, such as Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg, are threatening our democracies and our digital sovereignty. Thierry Breton was very right on this today. We live in a new era of empires, where Trump is hell-bent to dismantling multilateralism. Russia attacks Ukraine and our peaceful coexistence, and China wants to dominate the world. A stronger union is the only way for us to remain democratic, sovereign, and independent. It is the only way of keeping our dignity. But this requires vision and commitment. On the contrary, what happened in Scotland in August, the surrender of von der Leyen to Trump, together with the hypocrisy of many national leaders, has led to a EU-US trade deal which is nothing more than an historic humiliation. This cannot happen. And this shows how much Europe needs us, the European Democrats. So it is time for us to act. It is time for us to build a true global alliance of Democrats, as François Bayrou is saying since the very beginning of our political journey with the European Democratic Party. And this is why I am extremely happy to welcome today the parliamentary representative from the Indian National Congress and the Japanese Constitutional Democratic Party, which are here today. We have listened to them. Thanks again, Manish. Thanks again, Yosuke. We can applaud them again. But to be credible, and I'm concluding, to be credible, as Europeans, we must become more efficient, more powerful, and more democratic. We must reform the Union to unify the continent and to become a real and credible political actor. Those who can welcome our sisters and brothers from Ukraine and from Southeastern Europe without reforming the Union are lying. Either they are selling false hopes to the people outside the Union, just pretending we want to enlarge, or they are betraying the trust of EU citizens by telling them we can enlarge our union without reforming and that it is going to work. We know it will not work. We know we must reform the union. Many EU leaders, including Ursula von der Leyen, are playing with fire. Well, dear friends, we say it loud and clear, not in our name. We won't let them to dismantle our union. We won't let them to deceive our European citizens. We will fight until the end and we will win this battle. And we will do so. And we will do so because we are the proud heirs of Robert Schuman, Alcide de Gasperi, Simone Veil, Bronislaw Geremek, and yes, dear Basque friend, Xavier de Landaburu. And those gents would have never let this dwarf destroy Europe, because Europe is the most important political project of our generation and of our history. Vamos, demócratas. Thank you very much. Et maintenant, j'ai l'honneur d'inviter au podium notre président et fondateur, François Bayrou.
Il n'y a rien de pire que les discours de conclusion des congrès. Quand tout le monde a une journée pleine d'interventions et d'éloquence dans l'oreille et un peu dans les bottes, comme on dit en français, et de voir le président répéter ce que les autres ont dit et on sait ce qu'il va dire à l'avance, c'est une épreuve que beaucoup d'entre nous ont subie et que je ne voudrais pas vous infliger. Je vais essayer de dire l'essentiel en quelques minutes. D'abord, je suis très heureux d'être ici. Je suis probablement le seul dans le même parti politique que nous formons aujourd'hui. Et je me suis engagé très jeune à l'époque où l'Espagne, c'était Franco. Et le président tout à l'heure, le Lendakari tout à l'heure, a répété ce qu'étaient les dates et les anniversaires, et où les leaders de la démocratie chrétienne, c'était le PNV en exil en France. Et nous avons construit avec eux, le Parti nationaliste basque, nous avons construit avec eux l'Internationale démocrate chrétienne, qui n'était pas du tout ce qu'elle est devenue depuis. Je vais en dire un mot dans une minute. Et c'était des frères en exil. Et ces leaders de tout premier plan parlaient fraternellement avec le jeune militant que j'étais. Nous étions voisins, mais à l'époque, les Pyrénées formaient une muraille infranchissable pour des raisons politiques. Et donc, c'était pour moi une expérience extraordinaire que eux et les militants et responsables de la démocratie chrétienne d'Amérique latine, que les responsables chiliens, y compris ceux qui devaient connaître le sort le plus tragique, étaient ensemble avec le sentiment de porter un patrimoine, un message et un héritage que personne d'autre à cette époque ne voulait défendre, en tout cas en France. Et donc cette fraternité d'armes, je le dis au Lendakari, je le dis à Aitor, pour moi, c'est une des choses les plus précieuses et c'est la raison pour laquelle je ne me suis jamais dans ma vie politique laissé séparer du PNV. J'ai voulu, depuis les premiers jours, que cette fraternité forgée dans l'exil, elle se perpétue dans la gestion politique et dans les succès. Et Dieu sait que le PNV a eu plus de succès que nous qui étions à l'époque les grands frères, mais qui avons beaucoup à apprendre d'eux. Et donc j'étais particulièrement heureux d'être ici, d'être à Bilbao, que le Lendakari ne se soit pas contenté de venir assister à un discours et puis qu'il soit parti, il est resté tout du long. Et le discours remarquable que le président du PNV a prononcé à la tribune ne fait qu'ajouter à cette gratitude. Alors je voudrais vous demander de les remercier en les applaudissant au nom de cet engagement que nous avons partagé. Et j'étais particulièrement heureux, Sandro, de voir le succès de ce congrès. Le travail remarquable d'élargissement. Nous étions, quand tu es arrivé, 7 partis politiques au sein du Parti démocrate européen. Nous sommes aujourd'hui 14 partis politiques. Et c'est très important parce que c'est la garantie que nous sommes en train d'ensemencer, de jeter la semence sur des terres nouvelles. Et c'est une chose infiniment précieuse parce que c'est très rare d'arriver à faire vivre, grandir, naître et renaître des partis politiques. La vie m'a réservé cette chance que nous ayons pu, et permettez-moi d'avoir à cet instant une pensée pour Marielle. Si nous n'avions pas été là, à quelques-uns très peu nombreux, Romano Prodi, Francesco Rutelli, toi Sandro, Marielle, et nous, cette famille politique aurait disparu. Mais il n'est pas dans la nature des grandes familles politiques de disparaître. Des vraies, pas des familles d'opportunités, des familles qui sont construites sur une colonne vertébrale de conviction qui fait que, en nous écoutant toute la journée, eh bien, chacun d'entre nous avait le sentiment que on lui parlait dans sa propre langue, des problèmes qui sont les siens, des difficultés, des enjeux, des menaces qui sont les nôtres. Donc j'étais très heureux, Sandro, de cette organisation. Et puis, je me faisais une réflexion étrange. Je me disais qu'était en train de naître ici un mouvement dont nous avons rêvé pendant plusieurs décennies avec ce que j'évoquais là. Et ce mouvement était celui de la naissance ou de la reconnaissance du grand courant démocrate dans le monde, Global Democracy, que chacun croit attaché à son propre pays. Les Américains croient que le Parti démocrate américain est américain. Les Indiens, je suis particulièrement sensible à leur présence, moi qui suis dans ma jeunesse un militant de la non-violence gandhienne, de Gandhi. Les Indiens croient que le Parti du Congrès, c'est indien. Les Japonais croient que le Parti démocrate japonais, c'est japonais. Eh bien, en réalité, ces mouvements-là ne sont que le surjon, la pousse, la repousse dans chaque pays d'un mouvement qui est un mouvement universel et qui est aujourd'hui profondément en danger. Ce que nous faisons naître, Sandro l'a dit, c'est pour moi un rêve depuis 30 ans, que tous ces démocrates-là se reconnaissent entre eux et pensent qu'ils ont à construire ensemble et à apprendre les uns des autres. On a beaucoup de questions. On a vu dans le débat, c'est rare de voir des débats intéressants en politique. On a vu dans le débat que Laurence animait, vous vous êtes dit des choses qui n'étaient pas uniquement tendres, qui n'étaient pas uniquement de bonne composition. Et vous avez raison, je vais tout à l'heure essayer d'expliquer pourquoi. Mais c'était extraordinairement intéressant et c'est pour moi le prélude à la reconnaissance réciproque des mouvements démocrates. Nous sommes un petit mouvement, mais central. J'y reviendrai. De même que le Pays basque est une petite nation, mais centrale. Si l'on s'attache à l'essentiel, c'est-à-dire à la reconnaissance de la vraie nature du pluralisme et de la diversité culturelle en particulier, si l'on s'attache à l'essentiel, alors on comprend que ce qui se joue dans cette recherche partagée est une des clés de l'avenir du monde. Je vais essayer de dire pourquoi en quelques phrases. Vous avez souligné tous, chacun d'entre nous, nous avons souligné le basculement de monde auquel nous avons assisté et dont nous sommes partie prenante. Le Lehendakari à la tête du gouvernement basque, moi il y a encore quelques semaines à la tête du gouvernement français. un basculement de monde. Par quoi ce basculement de monde est-il marqué? Alors, on l'a tous dit et je veux le répéter parce que c'est la formule que j'ai prononcée le jour même de l'invasion de l'Ukraine par l'armée de Poutine. J'ai dit, on est passé, et la formule a souvent été reprise, j'ai dit ce jour-là, on vient de passer du monde construit sur la force de la loi au monde construit sur la loi de la force. Et c'était la première fois depuis la Seconde Guerre mondiale et la chute du mur de Berlin. Jusque-là, nous croyions tous, nous imaginions tous que peu à peu et difficilement, une nation après l'autre, on allait vers le respect de la loi, y compris entre les nations, ce respect de la loi fondé sur un principe qui est que la loi protège les petites nations aussi bien que les grandes nations. Que ça n'est pas la puissance qui fait la justice. Nous imaginions qu'un monde viendrait où la justice ferait la puissance. C'est ça qui a basculé sous nos yeux le jour où Poutine a essayé d'envahir l'Ukraine. C'est très important de le dire aujourd'hui, en ce vendredi 21 novembre, parce que l'Ukraine et son président, Volodymyr Zelensky, sont placés aujourd'hui sous une pression immorale. On essaie aujourd'hui d'expliquer à l'Ukraine qu'il faut qu'elle cède et que si elle ne cède pas, elle y perdra tout. Alors ils sont avantagés, évidemment, les puissants, d'abord par leur capacité industrielle, militaire, financière, politique, géopolitique, et par le fait qu'il y a un de ces scandales, comme il arrive qu'il y en ait dans tous les pays, chacun à leur tour. Mais vous voyez bien qu'ils se servent de cela pour forcer Zelensky à plier. Je lisais tout à l'heure ses déclarations, et visiblement, il est devant cette question. Et je veux simplement dire au président ukrainien que son héroïsme personnel a été l'image de l'héroïsme ukrainien, que nous n'avons pas l'intention de l'oublier et que nous voulons renouveler ici à cette tribune le soutien, la volonté inébranlable de soutien qui est la nôtre, celle des Européens et précisément celle des démocrates européens pour l'Ukraine martyrisée. Donc nous avons vécu ce basculement de monde. Et je dois le dire, ceux qui travaillent avec moi depuis longtemps le savent, depuis la première minute, nous avons compris que ça ne s'arrêterait pas à la situation militaire entre la Russie et l'Ukraine. Depuis la première minute, nous avons compris que quelque chose s'était enclenché pour que le monde assiste impuissant au renoncement général aux principes qui étaient les nôtres et que nous affichions, que nous affirmions et que désormais nous acceptions de voir piétiner. Alors nous savons très bien que c'est le même ordre que la Chine cherche à imposer par la force industrielle et commerciale à l'univers entier et spécialement à notre Union européenne. Ce qui nous pose une question centrale dans notre réflexion sur l'avenir de notre Union. Nous savons très bien que c'est exactement ce qui se passe au Moyen-Orient, dans le drame qui a commencé avec l'agression du Hamas et qui a continué avec le combat militaire contre Gaza, en Iran, à Gaza. Nous savons très bien que ce sont des enjeux de cet ordre et nous ne savions pas, nous n'imaginions pas que le président des États-Unis qui allait être élu se livrerait lui-même à l'égard de ses propres alliés à un renoncement aux principes que nous avions partagés, annoncés et soutenus ensemble contre toutes les puissances et notamment au moment de la guerre froide. Ce qui s'est joué dans ces 3 ans n'est qu'un enchaînement de causes et de conséquences absolument désastreuses. Nous avons vu ça et nous comprenons aujourd'hui, on l'a tous dit, que le cœur de cible, c'est la démocratie et c'est nous qui sommes le continent qui a voulu faire de la démocratie sa règle. Et c'est la raison pour laquelle tu as eu parfaitement raison, Heitor, de renvoyer cette question à la question de notre diversité européenne. Nous sommes le continent qui a choisi de faire vivre ensemble sur les mêmes principes, non seulement des identités différentes, mais des identités disproportionnées par le nombre. Nous avons affirmé le droit de chacun à exister, à défendre sa culture et à s'entendre avec les autres. C'est un immense sujet. Je ne vais pas m'y attarder. Nous avons en France, nous sommes les seuls à avoir des notions ou des combats idéologiques sur ce sujet que nous appelons chez nous de la laïcité. Qu'est-ce que c'est la laïcité? Et elle n'est pas que religieuse, je vais essayer de l'affirmer. La laïcité, ça part de la question de la tolérance. J'ai écrit des livres sur un roi de Navarre, devenu roi de France, et à l'époque, le roi de Navarre, c'était le souverain du Béarn, parce que la Navarre avait été reprise par tous ceux qui ne supportaient pas de voir quelqu'un de l'autre côté des Pyrénées sur le trône à Pampelune. Henri IV a été le souverain de la tolérance à l'époque où l'Europe et la France, plus que tout autre, étaient déchirées par les guerres de religion. Et il a affirmé quelque chose qui, à cette époque, au XVIe siècle, était impossible à entendre, c'était que dans le même État, dans le même royaume, on avait les mêmes droits quelle que soit sa religion. C'est le premier pas de la tolérance. Mais il y a un deuxième pas pour moi, qui est, que nous appelons laïcité. Laïcité, ça vient du grec, nos camarades grecs qui étaient là, c'est laïkos, c'est le peuple. C'est ce qui fait un peuple en dépit des différences. Et la laïcité, pour moi, je la définis comme non seulement la tolérance, mais la compréhension mutuelle. Et plus que la compréhension mutuelle, le souhait que les autres demeurent ce qu'ils sont, même s'ils sont différents de vous. Alors, l'univers entier a oublié ça, des continents entiers, des États-continents entiers ont oublié ça. J'étais très frappé par ce que notre ami américano-italien, je ne le vois pas très bien à cause des éclairages, ce qu'il a dit sur les sondages aux États-Unis, que presque la majorité, 45%, dans un camp et dans une génération, croient que la violence est justifiée, y compris si elle entraîne la mort de l'adversaire. Et cette justification de la violence dans tous les domaines de la vie internationale et les domaines de la démocratie ou du combat dans chaque pays, cette justification de la violence, c'est précisément le sujet pour lequel nous avons construit ce grand courant politique-là. C'est parce que nous pensons que ce qui est en jeu, c'est le progrès de l'humanité. Sur le fait que, précisément, nous commençons ou nous devons affirmer que ça n'est pas parce qu'on est profondément attaché à son identité, à sa religion, à sa philosophie, à son engagement politique, qu'on doit s'imaginer que le monde serait meilleur si les autres disparaissaient, si les autres étaient écrasés. Ceci est l'engagement démocratique par essence. C'est-à-dire, non seulement j'accepte que d'autres sensibilités que la mienne existent, mais je souhaite qu'il y ait d'autres sensibilités que la mienne. On y est arrivé en matière de religion. J'imagine qu'il n'y a plus de catholiques qui rêvent d'un monde dans lequel il n'y aurait que les catholiques et dans lequel les autres confessions chrétiennes, protestants ou orthodoxes ou évangéliques, je ne sais, auraient disparu et les musulmans auraient disparu, et les juifs eux-mêmes, les pères de toutes ces religions, auraient disparu. Alors je sais qu'il y a des continents entiers sur lesquels cette question de l'identité religieuse n'est pas réglée. Et il y a des continents entiers dans lesquels le droit de croire n'est plus reconnu. Et il y a des continents entiers dans lesquels le droit de changer de religion expose aux plus graves condamnations jusqu'à la mort. De la même manière, il y a des continents entiers dans lesquels, des continents en tout cas des pays entiers dans lesquels la condition de la femme, je voudrais que dans chacune de nos manifestations, les femmes afghanes et les femmes iraniennes aient leur place, elles à qui on interdit de se montrer, à qui on interdit de sortir, à qui on interdit désormais de faire des études, à qui on interdit désormais de chanter. Et vous voyez bien que cette question, non seulement de l'acceptation, mais de la volonté de voir les autres vivre selon ce qu'ils sont, est une question centrale pour nos sociétés et pour l'humanité. C'est à ce carrefour-là que nous sommes. Les pires des dangers et les plus importantes des chances. Heitor, je t'écoutais tout à l'heure, et depuis le début de l'après-midi, je l'ai dit dans l'oreille à Sandro, je suis frappé par quelque chose que je vais vous dire crûment et que nos interprètes me pardonnent. Je me dis que c'est le dernier congrès où il faut des interprètes. J'espère qu'il y en aura beaucoup qui feront d'autres tâches. Mais l'intelligence artificielle, avec un micro à la boutonnière et une oreillette à l'oreille, fera à Heitor que la question des langues officielles en Europe, elle va être dépassée par les progrès nouveaux qui sont ouverts. Tu pourras parler basque, je pourrai parler béarnais. En tout cas, je suis sûr de pouvoir parler français. Et nous n'aurons plus ces efforts démesurés pour avoir une seule langue qui s'impose à toutes les autres, ce qui n'est pas tout à fait ma philosophie des choses. Quelque chose est en train de changer. Je veux, à cette tribune, et pour finir, dire qu'il faut bien qu'il y ait un parti de l'optimisme démocratique, de l'optimisme civique Il n'est pas vrai que la loi de la force a déjà gagné la partie. Ça n'est pas vrai. Ce que les pays qui se livrent à la loi de la force vont perdre dans ces affrontements inhumain va être considérable. Et je crois que nous pouvons défendre l'idée qu'au contraire, nous construisons quelque chose qui est de l'ordre de l'union des cultures, des États, des générations. Il faut qu'on s'habitue à une idée qui est assez souvent écartée aujourd'hui. C'est quelle est la vraie nature du conflit en démocratie. Les conflits sont naturels. La plupart des orientations et des puissances qui s'expriment pensent que le conflit s'est fait pour le triomphe des uns sur les autres, pour l'écrasement des uns par les autres. Et moi, je crois le contraire. Je crois que le conflit peut se résoudre dans quelque chose qui ressemble à un chemin nouveau qu'on trouvera à partir de la compréhension mutuelle. Les conflits, y compris religieux, y compris culturels, y compris identitaires, y compris de génération. S'il y a quelque chose qui caractérise dans certains de nos pays, en tout cas la France aujourd'hui, la situation, c'est que les générations les plus jeunes sont sacrifiées par l'accumulation de dettes, elles sont sacrifiées par des déficits impossibles à corriger, elles sont sacrifiées par des institutions qui ne fonctionnent plus et elles sont sacrifiées parce que ce que nous leur devons, l'éducation par exemple, n'est pas tout à fait à la hauteur de ce que nous voudrions. Nous avons un projet de société qui est en réalité un projet de civilisation et que nous voulons partager avec ceux qui, comme nous, rencontrent les difficultés des temps. J'ai été très heureux qu'à Bilbao, ce congrès nous permette de vérifier que nos intuitions nous soudent, nous réunissent et qu'un grand courant est en train de naître dont nous croyons qu'il peut changer la face du monde. Merci à tous.